Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of It's Your Birthday. We got you a gift, and you guessed it, it's video games. I'm your host, Kelly Workman, and I'm joined by Christian Langton. Christian, how you doing today, bud?
Yo, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Just you and I got a little hooked on something this past week, and it's pretty much taken up all time that we have to do anything else.
And crack cocaine.
Yeah,
And that does that.
You need to stay away from drugs, especially the highly addictive ones.
Maybe that's a question to start with. Do you consider a video game to be a drug?
I consider I consider like the dopamine hit you get, like,
Okay.
why not? Like, there's like a sense of satisfaction, like even in a regular job, right? Where you do something like really fucking cool, or like you get recognized, there's that rush and you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. You're just,
no, I agree.
Not under immense pressure all the time.
Yeah. I've always considered it a vice, so I was just curious as if others did also, because I've sort of, because they'd be like, well, what do you, I was like, well, I don't drink or any of that, but I do smoke cigarettes, and then I play video games. I'd say are my two vices, so I've always kind of thrown it into that. As much as I love it, it's still kind of that thing where you're just like, I don't know if it's the best thing.
Yeah, it's something you don't talk about openly in public. Like that's the one thing you want to.
Well, more so now than before. It used to be like a little more hidden, but now I think it's like so widespread that it's fine that you do it.
Oh, it's so widespread, but I think like in general, I'm joking mostly, but then like you'll come across like the people who like, you know, they're into their things, whatever. But if like you bring up anything related to games versus like movies, like at least there's like trailers on TV. People are aware of sports. But, like, the second they're like, oh, so what are you into? And it's like, oh, I'm into playing Divinity for, like, 8 hours when I get home. That's just kind of what I'm into.
Yeah, like, that's just kind of my jam right now this week.
Like, hey, yeah, I play golf on the weekends. What do you do? I just kind of fuck around on a golf game with, like, 8 of my friends. And you shoot the ball through, like, a giant pumpkin head. There's, like, workshop levels where there's penises. I won't get into it, but just, you know that
yeah,
exists.
we did play a lot of golf with friends. I've completely forgot that we did that.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I was just thinking, yeah, no, I love that game. That's a great game. I was thinking too, like, what I really want is I want a PC version of Hot Shots Golf, or Everybody's Golf was the most recent one on PS4. I want to play that again. That's a great golf game.
Actually started. It's
so much fun.
I started playing the PSP port on my Vita of Hot Shots like golf, and whatever that one on the PSP is like amazing.
Dude, Everybody's Golf. I'm telling you, it's the shit. It's like probably like less than $20 now.
Is it the spiritual successor to that Hot Shots series?
No. That's what they called it in Japan, and then on this one they just changed the name to that so that everyone gets the same name now.
Okay.
It even gives you, whenever you make it in the hole, you'll get the like little chip in sound on the PS4 controller.
Oh, that's
which is
good.
Really nice.
It's
good. It's a good game.
It's like that nice clicky sound of the ball hitting the plastic.
And you'll get the chip sound when you hit it. You know, it's good. There's so many little things about that game that just make it so good. It's a fantastic golf game.
Yeah. You know what else is a good golf game is Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive
It's a
Edition.
very good golf game.
It's a very good golf game.
Can we maybe start with some other stuff, because I feel like this is going to be a much longer discussion than the other ones. Just because it's all we've literally done. I've put in 3 days. Let me actually double check the time in. I had played 2 hours of this game before we started playing it, and then I started playing it on my own after that. I've put 45 hours into this game in what is, I would say, 3 days, maybe 4 days. When did we start this?
It's been, I think we started playing it Sunday.
It's been 1 week. Oh, sorry. It was
about that.
Though. Yeah. So, I've played a lot of it in this time period here.
I tell you what. Let's talk about the most disappointing thing you played this week.
I don't even know if I would call it disappointing, because I knew it was going to be that. But I will talk about Avengers. Marvel's The Avengers beta, which was a a terrible video game, as you can tell by this stuttery footage, which is how the game operated. And yeah, I think I called it a week before, and I was like, this is gonna be Anthem again, and it really I wanted to be changed, but it just feels like Anthem, like the way that everything is set up, the way the missions are structured, the way that your hub world thing is set up.
Oh, here you go, going into the settings. Oh, I think you did that on. Oh no, look at that pop in. My God.
Yeah. Well, the settings are. Well, it's frozen on the settings on mine. I don't know if it is on the stream there. The thing about that is super fucking annoying though is if you notice like the way that menu came up where every selection was a different face button.
Yeah.
Is one of the worst interface options I've ever seen.
Are you still? I don't. Is it? Do you see the actual screen now?
Just curious.
Yeah. Okay.
But God. Yeah, this thing where it's just like load checkpoint, do this, all different.
Do you have
buttons.
to like hold that button down, or do you?
No, you just press it. But that's the thing is like you'll try to do, like I don't know. It's very unintuitive. Like there's not been another game I can think of that does that, and that's a very small thing. But I think overall it reflects that there's just so many tiny things in this game that just make the overall experience really bad. Outside of like the larger issues that it has, like. Oh, where do I even start? Like, I don't know. It's like, okay, so like narratively speaking, it's kind of all over the place, at least for the little bit that they give you. Because it's like, I think Captain America dies and then, or is supposedly dead, but I'm pretty sure he's a playable character, so I don't think he's actually dead. And then you start off as, well, you first have to play the initial on rails portion of it, which is sort of a tutorial, but it's basically like you're just flying or jumping or leaping through a bunch of very jittery, stuttery cutscene and QuickTime animation stuff, and it's effectively just what the movies are like, or at least the little parts of them I've seen, where it's just people fighting and then quipping at each other for like well, in those it's like 2 hours of quipping, but here it was like 15 minutes of somebody quipping and then the enemy quips and then you guys just quip back and forth and punch or whatever. Especially the boss fight when you fight with what's her face, the Widow, Black Widow. When she fights Taskmaster, I think is his name. It's a lot of like, well, I bet you didn't think I was the strongest. And it's like, haha, we'll just have to see. And he's like, haha, well, I always knew I was the strongest. And he's like, haha, I guess we'll find out. And he's like,
well,
haha.
That's weird.
And they just fucking quip. And I hate it. That's
weird because in the movies, like Black Widow's kind of a subdued character. She has moments, but it is a little odd that it's just like everyone is just like,
oh, you didn't focus on your training, haha. And he's like, I only train, haha. And then they just fucking fist fight, and it just drives me up the wall.
Talking shit about their moms and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what. I couldn't even tell really. It was just so much of that, and then. It falls apart with Hulk because he doesn't make sound. He just makes sound. He doesn't even speak really. It'll just be like, no, and just kind of gurgles. So then they'll quip at him, and his response is just sort of a low rum, and then he keeps moving. But that's like not that's besides the game itself just being fundamentally like flawed as a whole. I think like it's So one thing that I found is, and I don't know if they'll change this, but it seems like it's pretty baked in there. But the one of the biggest issues at the forefront is like it's tied. It's all online always. So even when you're playing the single player, it's still tied online. So if you've like my game bugged out and I got disconnected, and it pulled me all the way out to the title screen to load back into everything, which I couldn't do until I got back online. So there's some DRM thing, or it just by virtue of it being an online experience somewhat, they're forcing you into that, even though there is a single player story as far as I can tell. So that coupled with when you get into a mission, you pick the character you want to play outright, and then you pick your team of 3, and you cannot switch between them. You get the character that you pick, and that's it. So if you start playing one like, oh, see this girl, and it's like, I don't really like it, you have to quit out of the mission again, go back to the screen, select the character that you want, then your team again, and then go back in to start the mission completely over. So you can't just switch between them at any time you want. And all the gear on the map, as far as I can tell, is tied to whoever opens that chest, which is going to be whatever character you've picked. So they're the only ones that get anything out of the gear stuff while you're going through it, as far as I can tell. Well, which I think is tied, again, to the online stuff.
Yeah, one question I have is like, I mean, it's got 4-player co-op, right? It's like you and 3 other people.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Which I'll be honest, I didn't really see any of because it's 2.5 hours in before you are able to play with other people.
Oh yeah, I would have given
in the beta at least. But
I would have not. I would have not done that. I guess you didn't get to it. But one thing like I saw is that the beginning scene, like the beginning like parts of this game, it's like on the bridge, and it gives you like a taste of each of the main Avengers, and like it goes from these like set pieces to set pieces. There's cutscenes in between. And like one thing I was curious of is like the multiplayer asynchronous, where like you're playing as one character doing other objectives while another character is like making their way through the map, and the things you're doing are affecting like how they traverse the environment, that kind of stuff. I haven't seen enough of the game to know if that's there.
As far as I can tell, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be any different in the game. Again, I'm speaking because I don't know, but as far as I've seen and from what I can tell of having played it, that's all that scripted stuff like that. I feel like that's probably the only time you're going to get that until maybe if you just play the single player, there may be more of it. But like this mission here is like one of the first, it was like a story mission, but structured in the same vein as the rest of the game. And it was pretty much like you're going through this area. You have to all be in the same spot because you have to defend this point. There was a point where I fought, oh God, what was the guy's name? Abomination? I wasn't familiar with that character, but he was he was basically just a bigger, angrier Hulk, or less angry, but larger Hulk. And so you fight him as a solo boss, which I imagine is just tied to the story, or maybe they beef him up and then make him like just spongier for when you fight him as a group. I don't quite know, because in that one you only had him and then she was somewhere else. But I actually, thinking about it though, I think that happened before this did.
Yeah.
So that might have been part of that scripted thing as well.
Yeah, I mean,
and you may just have like a 3-hour lead up to the multiplayer stuff, and maybe no one else sees this stuff until then, because that would actually make the most sense to me. But yeah, as far as that like cutscene stuff, I think that's just tied to that, because I don't know how they would implement it otherwise.
Yeah, but I'm more interested to see, like, I mean, as interested as I'll be in this game, I guess, but
fair
to
enough,
see like to see like how they do the events or things that happen in the map, where like maybe it'll split the team, and like let's say Iron Man's got to fly around and cover the team while they're doing another objective, and you're kind of like off in a different section, like doing your own thing.
Well, the thing is I would say they probably won't be that specific, because there's a high chance that no one's Iron Man. You know what I mean? Granted, I imagine somebody's going to play him because people fucking love Iron Man. But because of the roster, there is an opportunity that no one's going to be that character. So I think what'll probably would happen is it would just split you into 2 people, and you would just go down fighting a row of people on each side or something. Or you flip a switch over on this side, they do it on another. But I don't think there is going to be any real scripted, like, entertaining stuff. I wouldn't guess.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, everything I've seen of this game, it just makes me think, like, 2 things. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, those are very good games. 3's questionable, but it's still a fun experience. Play those. And then also, like, they had an MMO for Marvel that was pretty decent. It didn't set the world on fire, but Marvel Heroes was like a free-to-play Diablo type, like, Marvel
that game
experience. Was
good. Yeah, that was fine. That was better. That was more fun than this game, for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And you had a larger gambit of characters as well. Because, like, I don't even know... I mean, I know who... I mean, again, I'm very unfamiliar with most superheroes anyway.
Yeah.
But, like... at least there was like a large roster of that one that I could kind of like, oh, I know, like I know Spider-Man, I know the Raccoon, and because I've really only seen Guardians of the Galaxy and like the Spider-Man movies. But at least there was like, oh, I know these guys, which I imagine they have the opportunity if this game takes off, which I don't feel like it will, but I would imagine they have the opportunity to put those characters into this system, because effectively, you're just fighting the same shit, and then you get gear, but none of the gear is cosmetic anyway. So it's like all they have to really do is put the character in, and then put like, his abilities or whatever. But other than that, like, they don't have to do anything because, like, you upgrade Hulk's bones. Like, that's his. You get new hand bones, and then so that makes you stronger and get like a new spine or whatever. Mm-hmm. And hers is like a bulletproof vest under her shirt or whatever it is. So nothing changes there.
I don't know.
There's also a marketplace, so you can spend real money. It looks like.
Well, that's what's like leading me into my next thought about it is that like I almost feel like they're going to like if this game does not take off like within the first 6 months to a year, if this game is just like dead in the water, they can position it like, okay, we're doing the starter edition. You get all this stuff before we release like some story DLC content, and you can play as these like maybe 4 heroes, and then they start charging for the heroes. You buy that base game, you get all the heroes. But I don't know. Something screams to me that this game just isn't going to appeal. Like, it's for Marvel fans, but I don't think it's for literally anybody else. I don't know who's looking forward to something like this.
I don't even know if they would like it. Because, I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about that fan base to really speak on it. But it's like, I could see them maybe getting something out of it because they're familiar with the universe, I guess. But I don't even know if it would keep their attention for that long, because eventually it just becomes fight these robots in different areas. It's not really like, I don't know, because the other thing too is like the way that the characters are set up. It's like everyone has a light attack, a heavy attack, and then your super basically. So, and then all the skills you upgrade or whatever are just variations of those. So I don't think like you're not slotting in new abilities and stuff. You're just sort of manipulating the ones you already have.
Yeah.
So I don't even think like play style wise, it will change much. And then there's also like, I mean, the performance stuff they can probably iron out, I would think, because I mean some parts of it ran decent, other parts ran like horse shit. So I don't know. Again, that's the beta too. So
the whole footage you recorded just looks so bad, and there were reports.
Well,
and maybe I can pull this up, but there were reports that like even like a 2080 Ti, and which is what you have, is
that's
like,
what I'm using, yeah, in a 9900K and 32 gigs of RAM, whatever. There's nothing in the system that would limit this game from running. So it's like, and in addition to that too, I had to use a different codec to record this because it was overpowering whatever OBS what I've normally used, and I've recorded everything with the same settings. I've never had a single issue until this game, so it could just be down to just poor optimization. I really don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess they fixed it at some point. I don't know when you recorded your footage, but I guess they released,
I played it that whole last weekend, and I played on the last day, so that would have already happened.
Pretty ass the whole way around, like just no way around it.
It was pretty abysmal performance wise, and just like it's just boring. Like there's no other way I can really phrase it. It's just fucking boring.
It seems to me like to the people who are excited about it, no judgment, right? I just personally don't see the appeal. Because also, like, all the footage that I've seen is that, like, every character plays very... Like, you have the archetypes. You have the ranged, maybe flying guy. You have
No. That's what I was going to say. It's a light melee, heavy melee, ranged attack, super. Everyone has that. So there's not a ranged character. There's, like, Tony Stark can hover, but he's, I think, the only one that can do that. So it's just, like... He can hover, but at some point he's going to have to get down and punch anyway. So it's like... Yeah, again, there's not real... They're all sort of punching something. It's not really like a diverse roster. The only diversity is just the way the character moves, kind of. Because, like, her... I will say on that Miss Marvel, Kamala is her name, that her animation stuff was cool because, I mean, just the way that she stretches and bends and does all this weird shit to move around is neat. But it's not really like a gameplay factor, more or less. Like, she kind of plays like I would think Spider-Man would play, just because she can, like, grip things and move around in that capacity. Yeah, and to say it, like, I love a continual loot shooter or whatever, just run in, do missions, get loot, whatever. I'm fine with those games. I enjoy them, and I was somewhat excited to play this. And yeah, it's just it's bad. We can move on. It's a bad game.
That's unfortunate. I mean,
Yeah,
not unfortunate.
And they could probably iron
like,
it out, but
yeah, I think there was like a lot of talk about this game years before it came out, and then when they did that big E3 presentation, like it kind of came out to like very little applause. Like I said, I don't necessarily know who it's for, but I hate to see games fail. I hate to see like game studios fail. So maybe they can make something, and then if it doesn't pan out, they turn it around because games are like able to do that more so than any other.
Games
media.
are really never finished anymore.
Yeah.
So there's never really a chance for them to rest or be done. I would say too, like you said, I think that's a point I didn't even really think about, but yeah, I think that game is very set up to become a free to play, or here's a cheap entry or something. Because if they've got the Marvel license, there's money behind it somewhere. So I imagine they're gonna want it to make something back. And I think it's been in development for a couple of years now as well. So it's not like it just came out of nowhere. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to say. And it's hard to care, I guess, really, for someone who doesn't like superheroes all that much. It's hard for me to give a shit, but I'm trying to.
I mean, you could play other good 4-player co-op games like, I don't know, maybe Gunfire Reborn?
Oh, yeah, great video game. This is because last week you mentioned that they put a new character out at their most recent patch, and I got the opportunity to play him and finish the game several times with him. He is a monster, and I think my favorite character in this game so far. Which, if you're not familiar with Gunfire, it's a first-person shooter, 4-player co-op roguelike. It's sort of similar. It has a similar vibe to it, like Borderlands, at least in the feel. I wouldn't say like there's not really comedy or dialogue of any sort really much to go on. It's more of just like you're kind of there's a lot of guns. You kind of I would say that's probably the best thing I can say about this game is like as a roguelike, it's one that does distribution of stuff really well. Like you always are getting something new. Like even when I can think of maybe 2 runs out of the like 60 some that I've not gotten anything, but everything you're usually like you've defeated this amount of enemies. Well, here's a new item that can drop now, or here's a new scroll or something. Like you're always sort of getting a thing.
There's something
and
very
I think that
satisfying about finding a build and then like getting that build from the get go and being able to level that through the whole experience.
Yeah, so that's okay. So this guy specifically, that's what I found with him. So he's a melee character. All the other ones are like more ranged, but this guy is like the idea of him is you're trying to get in close and you have a cleave ability, right? Mm-hmm. So what I found is there's a move that if you get early on, it's it gives +5 damage to every time you cleave. It can just ongoing. So you can get that. I got that to like plus I don't know, it was like 1500 or something like that. So it was every hit I was doing with the cleave was doing like hitting everything in front of me for close to like 14,000 damage, which was pretty much one-shotting everything that was in front of me. And then you also, it basically heals you because your overshield gets returned whenever you do that. And you can increase the distance of it as you run through if you're picking this type of build. So yeah, because I finished the game solo on like elite and on the regular difficulty. I hadn't tried the nightmare one yet because it's still like in early access. It's early access, I guess. But yeah, dude, this guy's great. This game's great. It's like it's super fun. All the weapon stuff feels really different. The shooting feels really good and tight. Like all the sound effects feel really nice. They have that nice little tinge when you get a headshot or a crit.
Yeah, when I was hearing about this game, I wasn't like too sure about it because I don't know. It kind of came out of nowhere, and it's also like in ways like through the translation and stuff like that. It's a little. It seems a little janky, but it like that's on the surface. But when you start playing it, it does feel really tight. It feels.
Oh, it feels great. Yeah.
And I love the combination of like that Borderlands style like randomization of the weapons, but also the like run based aspect of it. Just it is one of those, but it's a good one. It would be
like if in Borderlands you only got the named weapons and then they all had like different rolls on them. So it's like they all have their way that they fire, but all the stats on them are kind of completely different. Like you can have higher crit or better accuracy and all this other stuff.
This is a new knife, by the way, that he's using. I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, so that one's sort of like the Venom dagger, but when it hits, it'll take a second delay and then it'll explode.
Oh, that's cool.
It's okay. I like the Venom one because it's just straight damage, but this one
Mhm.
that's not a bad weapon either. I will say too, they handle it because when I played with you guys the first time I played multiplayer, I played probably 30 some hours of it solo, and they also handle the multiplayer really well because like the item stuff is all distributed per character. So it's like if you open a chest, everybody gets something out of that chest, and then you have the ability to like drop that item for someone. So like they can't even steal it until you give them the option to look at it. So there's no
Yeah.
like greedy nature to it or whatever, and then you can easily kind of help people build out whatever they're trying to go for. And I think that's like a really good way to handle that, especially in a game that is so random. Yeah, but they handle that super well, and
It's funny because
it's really fun.
the boss of this desert level that you're seeing, I think, has given me the most trouble so far. Me and my group, anyway. The bosses, when you figure out their patterns, aren't too hard, but the final boss of this game, I think, is like a cakewalk. To be honest,
Oh,
with
he's way too easy. Yeah, and that's the thing too, especially with the bird. His if you do that move with that cleave, you can take out almost every single cannon in one shot. So that first stage is like nothing of that boss, and then you can also hit his both eyes on the next cleave. So you can basically do that final fight in like 2 shots to the actual boss, and you're done. Which is pretty wild.
Do you think it's a character
Um,
that they're gonna have to retool? Like, do you think playing it's a little too much?
I don't think so. Honestly, because a lot of people keep saying he's really underpowered, and I think that they're wrong. Because he's. I've struggled with getting farther in this game with other characters. Now, granted, like in Borderlands, I used to play Maya a lot, or or Zero in the second one, which they're all melee based characters. So maybe I'm just like really accustomed to that kind of play style, and maybe that's why I'm faring better with him than the others. But yeah, dude, he's a powerhouse. Because even if you spec him a different way, you can basically spec him to where you never run out of shield, which effectively means you never take damage. Because it's like every time you use your foot ability, it like glides you either to an enemy, like you can jump towards an enemy or away from him. But eventually you can spec it to no matter if you hit an enemy or not, you get a full shield back. So it's like you can pretty much go forever on either end of it. So I don't know. I think I need to play it in the nightmare difficulty and see how they tool that around, because maybe in that he might be, if he's super powerful in that, then yeah, they probably do. But if not, then I could see it being like nightmare being the end goal, because the game seems really really difficult from the beginning, but once you start to understand and unlock a bunch of stuff, it becomes much easier to sort of get the just the game down, and then kind of what you want to do with each run.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very good game, and it's like maybe $10, I think, or maybe 15, but it's a fantastic game for that price.
Yeah, I do highly recommend it. I got a lot of good mileage out of it. I did get to a point where I think I was just like, I'd like to give this game a few months, and then I'll jump back in it, like kind of how I did like Dead Cells, where it's like I kind of want to see like if they add more paths, if they add more weapons, more story content, like maybe they throw some new NPCs in there. And I think that this game has potential to kind of go that route. Like, because you have the portal rooms when you're going through, like, oh, hey, I found a portal. Let's go in there, do a quick challenge. I would love to see, like, as they start adding more levels and stuff, like, hey, you can, like, sacrifice some HP, get a curse scroll, go straight to this level. And if you beat the level on this, like, different difficulty, then you get more bonuses. And like maybe they could go a Risk of Rain route where it's like, okay, we can beat the final boss, or we can go to this right portal thing here, and we can just loop the whole game if we wanted to, and just get as overpowered as we want and just have fun with it.
Yeah, I actually think if they this would be, if they could dole out bonuses faster, they could add a really fun time mechanic to this, like, because it is kind of already has like a speed run style to it. But if you could increase the drop rate of beneficial stuff, and then and just make the you could make this game like a sprint, and it would be pretty fun in that regard too. I think I agree with what you're saying too, because that's like Yeah, usually with Dead Cells and like a lot of roguelikes, I'll sort of wait for an update, play it for about a week and a half, and then I'll dip out until the next update comes or whatever. And I do that with most early access stuff, or at least roguelikes for especially, because I'll kind of see what changed, what they added, try to get whatever they added, and then I'll dip out for a bit. But yeah, this one's good. This is a good one to just dip back in and stuff because it's like very simple, but it can get very complex if you want it to.
Yeah,
but I think that's all I have to say on that game. It's a good game.
I imagine we'll keep talking about it as it goes on.
Yeah, I want some more characters. I want some more encounters. Like everything that they put in so far has been pretty fun. So yeah, the more dynamic stuff they can add to the encounters, the better. I think. But yeah, I'm ready for some more of it.
So I see you put this game called Get to the Orange Door.
Yeah. So I just played this before we played Divinity tonight a little bit. I haven't played. I've only played the demo. I purchased the full game, and I'm gonna give it a run and probably review soon. But it's like a super stylish, like really fast paced, like kind of endless runner sort of deal. Like you're trying to get, I think, to the orange door or get to the area where the orange door comes out. But it's like you can wall run off everything. You can sort of attach to every wall when you're running. There's like a slide kick. Like it's super fast and just like really interesting. Like I need to give it like way more time before I could really give it a proper review.
Yeah. What was that? What was that game that came out recently that it was like this cyberpunk ninja like it was all built around you speed running and like jumping off.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You recommended I played it. This is kind of giving me that vibe in a way.
Yeah. Damn, I can't remember the name of that game, but I know. I remember it. Yeah, it is kind of similar to that game. I think this one's more fast paced and kind of more fun to play than that one, because that one was sort of more like you get one shot and you die, basically. It was kind of in that same vein of like Super Hot or whatever. But this is sort of that with a bit more leniency and then a bit more chaos because of the leniency. And yeah, I need to play more of it because I really just played through the demo map, and then I was like, oh, it's only $7. Okay, then I want to get through this.
Yeah, I do. And love I think it's recent resurgence, like after Doom 2016, of like the fast-paced 90s arena style shooters, like kind of making a return.
Yeah. Well, and the ones that are just like evolving on the concept and kind of giving you, they were sort of pitching this as more like if you had a little bit more freedom of mobility in the same vein of like Titanfall, or at least the second Titanfall, I guess more so. But if you could do a faster runner like that, I think as far as I played, that seems that way. I think it's only one guy as well, because I think it's just a dude that makes it. But yeah, as far as I can tell from what's there, it seems really cool. I'll have to give a better rundown of it. I'm sure I'll put a review up probably this week, maybe tomorrow, because I don't have anything else scheduled really. But yeah, I think it's cool. I'm ready to see it through before I say that. But from what I played, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, let's get more into that next week once you have some more time.
Yeah. And then I'll just quickly, I think I talked about it last week, but I also played through all the Remnant DLC and finished it up, and it's really good. So if you like Remnant, pick that up. I think that's pretty obvious if you're a fan of that game. But yeah, there's not much more to say. It's still Remnant, still really good, and just more of it. So
hell yeah, brother. The big game.
Now we can talk.
The big game.
Well, do you want to talk about Spiritfarer and Warframe first, and then we can?
Well, I mean, Spiritfarer, I unfortunately had much more time to play because of the other thing we'll get to.
Yeah.
Warframe, man. So I have a couple buddies who have been into Warframe pretty much since its inception. And I always like shit talked them in a way, like it was like Warframe, more like Boreframe, stupid.
More like I don't know what to do frame. I get it.
Yeah. Like, and I felt the same way. And finally, like, because they kind of were also spinning their wheels on the game for a couple years until they met some people who like knew what they were doing, and they were like, "Oh shit! Like we've been fucking up this whole time." So finally I was like, you know what? Every time I want to play games with you guys are always playing Warframe. I think it's time I try Warframe one more time because I'm just hanging out.
World of Warframe.
It's what it's like. It's like when all your friends resubscribe to WoW and you're like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get back in there and do it, and then you play for like maybe a couple
weeks.
I
already stopped doing heavy drugs. Please don't make me do them again.
Yeah, but you have the sense like a couple weeks of getting back into it, like, oh fuck, I can't do this. I have a wife, a kid, I have mouths to feed. Like I just can't support another addiction. But you miss hanging with the boys, and if all they're doing is like smoking crack,
no,
that's all I'm saying.
You might have to do it a couple times a week.
I'm just saying. So
I get it. I get it. Not advocating it, but I understand it.
I got into Warframe, and you know what? I'll be honest. It's a fun game. It is absolutely a fun game when you have somebody telling you directly what to do.
When you have a Warframe coach, it's pretty good. Otherwise, it's like, god damn, dude. There's so much going on in that game. And for how simple outset it seems like it is, and at least when I played it, I don't even think they told me that I had abilities. They were just like, go through here and shoot this stuff. And you're like, okay, cool. And then I find like, a month in or whatever, I'm like, well, how's everyone doing all this crazy dance shit? And it's like in the bottom right, like this big is like 2 little bubbles. And it's like, you got abilities. And I was like, do I? Well, that's cool. That'd have been good to know. Because this was years ago too now, but
things in that game are menu on top of menu on top of menu on top of menu on top of yet another menu to finally get. Well,
then you get to that solar system map too, and you're like, "What the fuck am I looking at? Like, where can I actually go? What can I actually do? What is my actual next objective? Is there even an objective?"
So
apparently, what is happening here?
Apparently, it didn't used to be like this. You would go through the whole star chart, start to finish, whatever. They added these things called junctions later on, which essentially. Let's say you start on Earth, and like to get to Venus, there's a little junction that'll take you from Earth to Venus. Well, to get that junction, you have to beat these requirements where it's like, oh, you beat like this enemy type on this mission, beat this many of them.
I have seen that, yeah.
And so that's how you get the junctions to go places. Well, eventually it was like throwing me things. It's like, oh, you need to scan like biodes on these like ender creature or whatever the fuck, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I totally understand what you're talking about. And then you look on the Warframe wiki, and like no shade at those guys, I'm sure they do a fantastic job of running and maintaining that place, but if you're not familiar with any of that game, good fucking luck reading that wiki. It's just like like when you look up a material, like let's say you finally understand to craft this Warframe, I need a chassis, so I need this material. Let me go on the wiki and like see where I can get this material. And then you see, do a conquest mission on Dirge with 25. It's like, I don't know what the fuck you're trying to tell me to do right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to calm down a little bit with like this made up funky ass language that you're trying to shove down my throat. But
I will say, well, go ahead.
You go ahead, because I think what I'll say next will kind of round up my point.
I know the only thing that's ever happened because I played that game. I played like 2 frames to the max level, I think. But I imagine there's some kind of like prestige thing with them.
There is 100%. There is.
Okay,
that's a whole other system buried in menus, by the way.
Right. Okay. So I played it to the max level once.
Okay.
I guess at like 2 of them, and then some different weapons and stuff to that capacity as well. But I swear, every time I join that game, no matter what thing I say go and do, it always ends up I get pulled to the same mission where I'm on some planet, and it's like a circular arena, and there's just a bunch of waves that come to try to get to the center of the arena. And everyone just funnels in and does AoE in the middle of that thing until they pick whatever reward roll thing they want, and then they leave. It's like 20 waves or something, and then they leave. And I've done that probably 120 times, because I swear to you, every time I could pick any mission, and I end up there every single time. And I don't have any idea why. I don't know what I'm doing that makes that happen, but it is the only thing I've gotten to do after the initial like run up, because I think I played the initial run up through 3 planets or something when the game first came out, before it was what it is now. And And I did that, and then I came back later to check it out again, maybe 2 years after that. And then it's honestly, it's kind of similar to the same thing that Phantasy Star 2 has, but it's almost easier to understand Phantasy Star Online 2 than it is to understand this game.
Yeah, I wish
crazy like when you get into it.
I wish we were doing this show when Phantasy Star Online 2 came out, because I was really into that for like a month, and then I kind of fell off of it again. After playing Warframe, I'm like, fuck, I really feel like playing PSO2, because I like that style of game. I like that style of, not only is it cooperative, but you're also like on this kind of endless grind, but the gameplay is fun enough to keep you in the loop. And then when you finally get the reward for something that you have been grinding towards, and if you're okay with that grind, then I think it's like totally fine to be into those types of games. Like I don't see anything wrong with it.
And that's why Monster Hunter is the best video game ever made, because it is exactly what you said. Except you know exactly the reward you want and what you need to do to get it. Yeah. And then you go on missions that are always pretty fun and pretty dynamic.
Listen, I understand that, like, philosophically, Warframe is like essential. When you break it down to its bare essentials, a slot machine. Like, I totally understand that.
Yeah, and that's what Phantasy Star Online 2 feels like too. It feels like a slot machine.
Yeah, so if you go into these games expecting like, oh, I'm gonna get like Necros Prime, for example, like, oh, I'm gonna get in the game, buy him immediately, I'm gonna level that frame. You gotta slow down, bud. You gotta slow the fuck down, because let me tell you something. Not only do you need the blueprint, not only do you need 4 pieces usually to get that frame made, you also have to wait 72 hours for a frame to craft. Or you can speed it up with the platinum, which is their premium currency, which they are very lenient with and will throw you a 75% off on platinum. And then you go, fuck, I could get some platinum.
I might as well do it now.
I might as fucking well.
Well, because that's the thing, too, is like, we'll send you this discount, and it's only available for 25 minutes, bitch. So what are you going to do?
Fuck, do I feed my family? What do I do?
What happens... They send you the discount, and then a gun slowly comes out of the screen of your monitor and comes next to your head, and you're like, "You got 20 minutes. Do you want the discount or not? You dumb bitch." Yeah,
I
do. You just sit there and go, "Okay." I'll do it. I'll probably play this game again. I'm sure I will.
All I have is a Squidward card, and all I have is my Toys R Us membership card.
That ain't enough. Do you want the Necros, or do you want to wait for 3 days, you dumb bitch?
Fuck. Okay, let me email my wife. We're kind of separated right now, but I got to pay the kids child support money. Okay, I'll buy the platinum.
You don't have enough.
I'll buy the fucking platinum. Yeah,
and then if you don't play it, if you don't buy it, the game uninstalls itself. So then you have to pay a certain amount to get the game client back on your computer. They make you pay platinum for that as well.
Yeah, your fucking Steam account gets crypto locked. We will give you the password if you send us $100 in Bitcoin.
You got to send us back platinum, but you can't get any platinum because we're not going to sell it to you anymore.
So back
to wild.
Back to my point. So you have the Warframe blueprint. You craft the Warframe. Then you level it to 30. Then you're like, fuck, I can only put this many slots in it. Oh, go get an Orokin cell. That'll double the amount of mods you have. Oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, but let me tell you about augmentations and putting the right slots on your Warframe to match up with the mods that you have to make sure that your drain from the mods isn't too... Yeah, it is a textbook of things.
I'm trying to get myself into a coma. I'm like sort of trying to make myself, and maybe by the time that's done, I'll have graduated college, because that's what it seems like you're asking me to do.
I will say, like, it was like 2 weeks, maybe, probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't feel super well versed in the game, but 2 weeks ago, I would have never told you about any of that stuff I said. Like, I would have just never fucking known. I would have
not even had the words to describe it.
Yeah, I would have I would have happily leveled my frames to 30 and been like, "Oh, I'm beating the game, Dad. Are you proud?" Yeah. Like,
that's how I felt. I was like, "Oh, I finished it." And I was like, "Oh shit, they gave me a dog. Cool, very cool." And then that was like where I dipped out, because it took me 8 weeks to hatch a dog out of an egg or whatever the fuck it asked me to do. And then I mean, I don't think that game is bad by any means, but I think it is it's a little too much for my blood. I think I dip in every now and again because sometimes I just want to. Because that's the other thing too is like I realize there's all these systems, but every time I played it, I pretty much kill everything in like a hit or two, and then until I got to that open world area, and then there were some things that were like actually giving me a challenge. But yeah, it seemed like at first it seemed very easy, but again, I could probably just not be setting the thing right to the right difficulty in the right area, or any number of things could be happening because I don't know what I'm looking at most of the time. I'm looking at a spreadsheet of planets.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at my own credit card information on screen for some reason. I didn't even realize I typed it in, but it already had it.
You had another hand that like came from behind you or like grew from your body and just typed
Well,
it
it came
all
up
in for
from
you.
my crotch and was just like, here you go. And just started typing in my credit card information. I was like, dude, what the fuck is this?
The fuck? I have a hand penis.
And then it held up a little sign that was just like, what's your security password? And I was like, oh my God, hold on. Wait a minute. I don't want this.
Aside from that stuff, the last thing I'll say about Warframe is that like you have to work to get there, but surprisingly the story content is like fairly decent. Like
I've heard it's really good. I have heard that about that game, that the story stuff's really great.
It does get to
and
a
I didn't
point
even
where,
know it
like,
had one. So
yeah.
There's that.
Well, I don't think it did originally. Like you had some characters that you would come across and you got like a sense of the world, but like the mystery of like who the Tenno are. Like you're called like an operator, but you're part of this race called the Tenno. What are they? Who's the Shadow Stalker guy following you around? What's the deal with the Lotus, who's been like kind of guiding you through all these missions that you're doing and stuff? And
well, yeah, it always seemed like when you started, it was like you were. It seemed like you were either like mercenaries or some part of like a SEAL team, because they would be like, everybody looked like Gray Fox, and then you would come in on this like ship, and then they would dump you into whatever mission, and then somebody would tell you what to do. But yeah, at the offset, it always felt like, again, you were some kind of merc, but I really don't have any idea. And I'm sure if you want it, I bet there's YouTube videos of people explaining the entire lore of this game. If you have 6 to 8 years to listen to it. If you're the kind of person that wants to get into Warhammer 40K, you might as well just get into this too, because just get all that backstory out of the way for all these games.
I will say Danny O'Dwyer had like a really cool documentary series.
Oh, yeah.
He
did.
And if you're interested...
Is it on NoClip?
I think it was a NoClip thing, possibly.
Okay.
If I remember right. But yeah, if you're interested in it, he does fantastic games journalism, and he talks about like, how they've been trying to onboard new users, and I think they've done a pretty good job of that, but there's still a lot to that game.
Yeah. It's one of I will say it is also one of those few games that has its own convention, so there is enough people continually in it to where they can support conventions for it, and that's rare that happens. So
yeah, play it if you'd like, but another game that you should be very cautious about, especially if you have a huge backlog of other games that you need to play.
Oh man, yeah, this game is so good, boys and girls. It is. It's exceptional. It's a game.
They're playing on PS4, but I don't care. Like whoever's doing this footage, I really don't care, because
I apologize.
No matter what. Oh well, I'll switch it.
Well, it only because it has their name and stuff at the bottom, and then who their new followers on us.
Yeah. We'll
seems a little egregious.
I always just try to find like no commentary footage that we can just kind of play.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So, anyway, it's a game.
It's a game. I'll pull up the review. I did a written review on Steam of it, and I feel like it sums it up pretty well, my experience with it so far. But I will obviously go deeper into it. But basically, I bought this game on launch, and it's been sitting in my library for about 3 or so years now, and it hadn't really clicked. I think mainly because I always started it at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I was like, oh, I want to play an RPG, and then I'm like, I don't want to learn the story and read right now. Fuck that. And then it wasn't until we started playing it co-op, because you can. But yeah, it's just... Here's basically what I said. I was like, there's just so much to love here, and there's so much care taken into every aspect of the game that it's really difficult not to appreciate just the sheer amount of work and effort that has been put into this game. And without spoiling anything, the best way I can describe this game is it's a narrative-focused, tactics-based RPG that's incredibly dense in both customization and story elements, where everything is a character and everything has a story, and I mean that quite literally. So it's really like just no matter what you kind of find, or like book you pick up, or like thing you run into, a creature that you meet, anything like that, everything sort of is a story to tell. Like even the boat itself is a person. Like, and it's like, so it's just, again, every little, it's like a, so not to spoil it if you haven't played it, but to say for by virtue of example, but the boat that you capture is like it's made out of this like old elven wood, and there's been a spirit of an elf trapped inside of it that was being controlled by another magister, which is like sort of the people that you're fighting against, because they don't like sorcerers, or not sorcerers, but people that use this power called the source. And yeah, so it's like you just randomly hijack a ship, and it's like, oh, the ship stopped moving. Why? And it's like, well, it doesn't want to, and it's controlled by something else. So you have to basically like sing to the boat to confuse it, to make it think that you're its owner, and then it realizes you're not, but you realize the ship realizes like, oh, well, you're not an asshole. My other owner was a real asshole, so I'll definitely, be your guys' boat and do what you ask, because I'm meant to serve anyway, and I'd much rather serve you than the people that I have had to before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like that. There's also this ability called Pet Pal, which is if you play this game, I don't think you can play this game without it. I mean, you can, but you really shouldn't. Like it's
There's
just
workshop mods that force you to have it. Like it's like pet like the speaking to pets ability is given to you right away. Like
yeah. So basically, what it does is it's like it takes one of point in one of your trees, or not your trees, but one of your skill sheets, and that's not really much in the grand scheme of things. But all you really need is one character that has it. But it basically means you can talk to animals in the game. But that means you can talk to literally any animal in the game. It's like every rat that you come across has dialogue of some kind, and it's all fully voiced. And like you find pigs that talk, and like
there's
even
bear.
a mission we did earlier on, and it was like a cave full of lava slugs, and one of them like stopped him and was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And we're like, "Oh my, you can just talk to these, like, and they don't, and we can maybe not fight them."
Yeah.
And like I won't spoil what happens with the actual story beat of that, but yeah, it is literally like, again, there's just such a care and detail of everything that's happening, and like obviously this game's been out for a while, and so you might be fully aware of that, but this is the first time coming to it, and it's just amazing. Like it's really something special, and just the way that the tactics play out, like you don't even really necessarily need a good grasp of like tactics style games or like RPGs in general.
Yeah.
Like you want it to really like min-max or sort of do, because there's a lot of difficulty modes, and I would say even on the easiest difficulty, you really don't need to know anything. If you just want the story stuff, it's really available for you. And then there's the tactician mode if you really want a challenge, but it is, you really don't need all that, because like you can kind of just throw stuff together and it'll probably work out to some extent. But if you really want
we
to,
experienced that quite a bit.
because we didn't know at first. Like basically what happened is we had all started a game as a group, and then because we liked it so much, we all started kind of our own campaigns, and then just meet back to do the group one. But it's really helped because you can sort of see like all the diversity stuff that you can do, because you could even be like you can be like a healer that also just heals using like dark magic, or you heal like with using powers of water, but you also can suck the life out of dead things or reanimate corpses as like a necromancer, and you can also turn people into sheep and stuff, because it's like you just need like a point or so in there to kind of give you the ability to read the book, and then once you can read the book, you can sort of do the ability. And like the amount of ways you can take on a boss too. It's like one of those things, like what we just experienced. We had a fight on the ship, and we had to protect the character. The way I'd done it in my own game is I swarmed everyone around them so that the other characters couldn't really get to her to attack her. And we started doing that, but on our playthrough, and we couldn't. And then Christian just decided to teleport the boss or the NPC somewhere else. And to me, I was like, oh, I never would have even thought of that, due to the fact that most NPCs in games you can't really do anything with. They're like really scripted. They do this. But in here, it's like you can kind of do whatever you want. I've seen in the first game, people teleport bosses to other bosses to fight each other. And I thought that was fucking insane. It's like you just I brought this boss with me to fight this boss.
I want to get into some of those abilities that like do the mind tricks to the enemies, and I'm sure that's like the necromancy tree that I'm going down will give you some of that. But I want to be able to charm.
It does do the charm stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I want to be able to charm enemies on one another because we've seen enemies do that to us. But yeah, that's the other thing is that like pretty much every spell that you see in the game you can learn. Like from what I can tell, like everything that you see the NPCs do as far as like the Phoenix drops. The big fireball magic, the comet magic, like as you start to level up your pyrokinetics or necromancy or any of your other skill sets, the sky's the limit on some of those spells. And I think at some point you're just going to be doing like absolutely devastating crazy magic. One thing that was really cool, like you get the source powers separate from your normal abilities whenever you learn that you're a like what do they call them, a
godwoken
yeah. So you get these separate abilities that use the source power. If you see up there on the top left of the footage, Barden has not Barden, that's a character from Warhammer Vermintide, my bad, but Beast, I think he is the like default NPC.
Oh, the dwarf, Beast.
Yeah, if you see that icon under him, that's your source points. And you can bless fire on the map, and it turns into holy fire that will heal you, and you catch on fire with the holy fire, and it gives you like immunities to stuff. There's a lot of experimentation here too, and I think that's like one thing that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll say that's like a big proponent to it, is because it's like tampering with the elements that are either present already or creating them. So it's like I have a character that will make it rain, so the whole area will get puddles around it, and if people are standing in puddles, then you can lay down ice, so that'll freeze all the characters, then you can make the ice shatter, or to their end, if one of their characters gets a turn, they can just throw fire everywhere and sort of melt the ice, or you can just like electrify like most liquids like blood or water or whatever, you can just shoot electricity on, so that'll sort of stun everybody, or just do electricity damage. I think the other big thing too is because there's no mana, it's all based on action points, so each turn you have like a set amount of things you can kind of do, and they all have cooldowns and stuff like that, but you're not tied to this, like, there's never really a point where you can't do anything. It's always like, I either have to wait or find a way to maneuver till I can do something, but it's never like, well, I'm out of mana, I just have to stand here and kind of just die. It's like, no, I can kind of finagle my way out of this, or I can get some distance on somebody, or I can kind of move them around or position somebody. Because there's not really a grid either. It's like a very open-ended tactics area. Like you can move 14 meters basically in anywhere that you can see. I mean that's a different example because not every character can move that far, obviously. But like I just got the ability to, I play mostly in playing in our game like a lizard, like warrior paladin, effectively.
Yeah.
But you use hydromancy or whatever. But I have like 2 skills that rogues use, and then I eventually am going to be grabbing like another skill from another tree. But effectively, it's like I can charge probably like 10 meters forward, then I can teleport like another 15, and then I can do like eventually I'll get another thing called a Phoenix dive where I can just teleport again. So like you have a lot of options of just like movement and kind of getting around the field and sort of manipulating that. And then again, manipulating like the elements, because there'll be like a poison cloud, but you can light a poison cloud on fire and that'll cause an explosion, so everyone will get poisoned and then they'll catch on fire and burn. And like it's just you can even I think another thing you can even do, which we haven't tried, is you can manipulate the battlefield by bringing in furniture and shit with you. So like if you had that chest and you laid it in front of you, you could block them from moving towards you. But that's just stuff that like
okay.
Yeah, we didn't even consider it, but you can just move the environment around if you want, and then set yourself up to be, kind of whatever. I would say it's a physics-based tactics game, but again, the amount of detail into everything. There's some abilities that give you, like, there's a polymorph is a really interesting one. I think I'm gonna try on my main save, because it's like you can turn people into chickens, which is like the obvious polymorph move, or sheep or whatever. But then there's one that'll make you sprout like spider legs, and so you can walk faster on webs that you shoot that'll freeze enemies and all this. But And you have like a height advantage. That's another big thing. So if like you climb up, you get like 20% damage increase, and then anybody above or below you has less damage to you. So that gives you like a tactical advantage, and all the environment stuff. Like all the little battlefields are kind of just like there's some areas that you go and you go, oh, I think there's going to be a fight here. It feels like a fight room. But most of the time it's like an ambush can kind of happen anywhere. And then all the environment is sort of laid out in a giant map that battles can sort of happen wherever they are. And another really interesting thing about it is due to the fact that it is a single player, you can do it in single player or co-op. But because it's not like a continual online experience and there is a story and stuff, like everything on the map is static. So if you left blood somewhere, that blood is still going to be there. And if like you leave like puddles of water somewhere or poison or whatever, that's going to stay. And then the same as with like chests or boxes or whatever, they just stay wherever you leave them, sort of in the way as like Skyrim and stuff works. Like if you leave items somewhere, they're going to stay there kind of thing. So you can really kind of manipulate environments in other ways like that. And then outside of that, which we kind of touched on a little bit, but the writing in the game is phenomenal. Like everything is really, really well written. It's well voice acted. Like I haven't found even the littlest character. Every character is voice acted incredibly well. Like there's some that are obviously like slightly better than others, but I wouldn't call any of them bad. Like they're all like quality voice work done for everything in there. And again, every character, no matter what it is or who it is, they have voice dialogue. I mean, down to like the mice. And then when you talk to like chicken people, like when the chicken talks to you, if you have the ability, you know, they'll like bogok and do this, but the voice actor is like very seriously saying things like they are a chicken.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
it's
just exceptional.
I love the quest with the pigs that were eternally caught on fire by like a tyrant king because they were like defying him. So you go and bless these pigs, and then eventually like you come across a dragon and you help the dragon out, and then behind him there's a pig, and she's like, oh, thank you very much for helping me. I won't complain much about being a pig, but being on fire was terrible. Like that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. And then you find him somewhere else, and it's like, well, you can go to this healing pool that we found, which you may or may not make happen anyway. Like that's just like,
yeah,
that's another thing too, is like so many parts of this game. I mean, because there's so much story and so many options for things that you could do, like, you can handle things. And that's another sort of tactics that is on top of the actual gameplay itself, is just like deciding how you really want to handle certain things. Like, because we're not there in the story, and I know you haven't gotten there, I won't say anything about it, but there's a few things coming up that are like, I could see it being handled 5 or 6 different ways, but there's like a very easy way. Like it's rare now because most of the RPGs we get, like the decision making is very minimal, but here it very much feels like you can. Oh man, I want to tell you about one thing, but it's
we'll get there.
Yeah, I'll wait, because it's really cool, and it is like another touchstone of that same idea. But yeah, it's like
we're nowhere near done. We're gonna keep checking in on this one.
Well, no, that's the thing, because the tutorial island is like easily 5 hours or longer. Like you could probably, because I think I took about maybe 7 or so on mine to get through the tutorial and do kind of everything on that island. So yeah, the tutorial itself is already like, and that's all, and that's not to say it's like really teaching you stuff. It's just sort of showing you possibilities, and it's not like anybody's really guiding you through any of that either. It's very up to you to kind of try stuff and see if it works. And in addition to that, like the story throughout that whole thing is a great setup. Like it is a tutorial, but I think it really fleshes out a lot of good story stuff.
Yeah,
on its way to you getting out of there.
I'll say I picked this game up not too long ago because I kind of wanted an RPG to mess with. I played Disco Elysium for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I like this, but I kind of want to play like a game like this, like an RPG with combat. And I saw Divinity Original Sin 2 had like an overwhelmingly like positive review, like average on Steam, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. I remember hearing about this game when it came out. Everybody was in love with it. And I tried it myself solo, and I found some of it very daunting. What I think was nice is like starting to play co-op with you guys. I can see how you guys think, and I can see how like approaching certain situations, like I have a different frame of mind of thinking about ways of doing things, and then you guys will suggest something, and it's like, oh, I didn't think of a way to do that. And now I feel like after playing, through that first like good 6 to 8 hour chunk of the original like fort that we did, I kind of want to go back to my own campaign, which I haven't done yet, and like experiment more with the stuff that we've been doing. So I recommend, like, if you feel like you're slamming your head against it and you have friends that own it, try to get them to play it with you, because I think playing it with some friends is a good, cool experience. But I think it could get you into the game a little bit better too.
I will say to that end as well, what I did when I went back and started my own. So there's story, explorer, and then classic difficulty. And if you started on because those three, there's also tactician, which is like the hardest mode. But those first three, it really just messes with percentages of stuff. So I would really suggest you start like on the easiest one, and then kind of work your way through, because it can be, you can get yourself in some pretty shitty situations pretty easily and not know what to do to get out of it. And so I would almost suggest starting it on the easier or the second easy, or the either explorer, which is the easiest, or I'm sorry, story, which is the easiest, or explorer, which is the next one up. And then at that point, when you start feeling like the game is too easy, just up the difficulty a bit. And then I would say maybe take it to the farther end, because you'll have a pretty good set of gear, but you'll also have a pretty good understanding of the game so far.
Yeah.
And then that will, I think, ease you into the rest of it, because like I said, that first 7 hours is nothing compared to the other 80 that you're going to be experiencing. So I would say do that to kind of ease yourself into it, and sort of ease yourself into the rest of that game, because it's going to get difficult regardless. But I think having the ability to change between those first three is pretty nice. Especially because the story stuff is all really pretty good. So it's like, I would say you might want it at some points, but it also just helps the difficulty curve. Cause that's what sort of happened with me, is like, I would talk to someone the wrong way, and then like part of a town would want to fight me. And I'm like, well, I can't do this. And then another big thing is, before you're about to make any decision, or you think you might make a decision, quick save. Cause this game has auto saving, but it has it at its own points. And they're not always clear when that's going to happen. So, and it's messed me up a couple times. Like, there's been some decisions I wish I wouldn't have made. And I can't go back on them now, but that's sort of how the game operates. It's like, well, you did it, so that's too bad.
Have that F5 key at the ready. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just like have your hand floating over that thing at all times.
And I'll say too, I think it's almost to its benefit to use it somewhat sparingly.
Yeah,
but if there is something that's like seems very, very much like it could change a lot of stuff, to try to do it then. But yeah, I mean, kind of not being able to go back on your decisions is sort of a big part of the game too. I think that it excels in.
I think it's this generation's Baldur's Gate. I really think so. And what makes me happy is that Larian Studios is making Baldur's Gate 3. I think the old guard. I think the old guard of Baldur's Gate, they might like look at this and be like, maybe it's a little too primitive in a way, because they have streamlined a lot of what made Baldur's Gate like that advanced D&D kind of representation. Like, you're not doing just like attacks. There's a dice roll in Divinity Original Sin 2. That's all in the background. You never see the dice rolls. I don't know if like Tactician unlocks that stuff, because I haven't looked at it really. But in like the Baldur's Gate series, it was essentially D&D rules. And I think going into Baldur's Gate now and like seeing how D&D has evolved over the years since Baldur's Gate, at its inception, maybe people are more receptive to a streamline of those rules. But what I really like, the gameplay I wouldn't change at all. Translate this to Baldur's Gate and add, some, flavor and some additional stuff, like mechanics, not necessarily unlike the source powers, but like give it that Baldur's Gate flavor with some of those original abilities. But the world, like these guys obviously influenced by Dungeons and Dragons, like obviously, from Divine Divinity to Divinity 2 to the first game to this one.
That's another thing. The naming conventions of these games are a little all over the place.
It's crazy.
Actually, they're not all over the place, and that's maybe the problem, because it's like there is a Divinity 1 and 2, but they're third-person action games. And then in the same universe, but it's like, there's Divinity 1, Divinity 2, and then there's Divinity 1 Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2 as well, which are totally different games. and they play completely differently, but they are still in the same kind of universe. And
there's like Dragon Commander. There's some weird games.
Oh yeah, there
is
Dragon Commander. Well, in Divinity 2, not Original Sin, you can turn into a dragon. That's like one of the big parts of that game is there's like dragon areas where you are a dragon and you because you are like a dragon person that turns into him or whatever. That's like your main character.
Yeah.
Which I've started to work through that slightly. I'd say another one I was reading about which I guess I got in a Humble Bundle at some point, but the game Pathfinder Kingmaker is another one that I've heard is really good in this same vein. That I guess started out pretty rough, but has now since become like one of the best ones of this style, what people have said. I haven't played it myself. It's probably next on the list. I think I'm too sucked into Divinity and I probably will be for a while. But that's another one to kind of look at if you want a cheaper alternative. But I would really say, and that one is properly set in D&D. And that one has all that stuff. So if you want a more familiar landscape, maybe that's where I would go. But I would really say play Divinity. Like it is, damn, it's a good game. I can't stop thinking about it. Like I keep going to sleep at night soundly because I'm thinking of like, all right, well, what could I do for this build? I could probably do that. I might change this around. And even in both games, like, all right, in the game I'm playing with the boys, okay, I could maybe do this a little bit. I can tweak that. And that's another thing, too, that once you get through the tutorial and you get your ship, you have the ability to go downstairs and talk to a mirror and rechange everything about your character pretty much whenever you want to. Do you have, like, a set of, like, a few base stats based on what you picked at the beginning that you can't tweak, but everything else you can just change. So it's like, so if you've messed up at all in the beginning stages, you can go here and just go, well, I'm just going to try all this out. And as long as you have the money or the ability to get the books to learn skills for each thing, you can just change everything you want pretty much on a dime. And that makes it super interesting and compelling too. One for like multiple playthroughs because I will say the characters too that you get to pick from, other than the one, because you can make your own as well, but the ones that you pick from that have their own stories already generally all have really good stories. Like the Red King is really good. Fanes is pretty solid. Laos, Sabille, all those beasts, they all have really interesting story beats to them and story specific missions to go through as well. But you could play it without any of them if you wanted, and you can also play the game as a solo party as well. It's set up to do that also. But it is such a densely packed game, and it is just so neat. And it has been out for 2 years, and they keep updating it. They put another update out like a week ago, I think, with some additional stuff and changes and things like that. So,
and I think when we're done with this playthrough, we're gonna Baldur's Gate 3 will probably be out of early access by then. But also,
is it in early access or is it?
It will be in early access at the end of September.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I kind of want to get buckling down on this game so we can move on to some of that when it comes out.
Absolutely.
But I like the game a lot. That was what I was going to say. When we're done with this playthrough, there's like a slew of workshop content as well, like custom classes, custom combat reworks, like just a whole host of different things that people have done in the workshop. So worth checking out for some of that content alone if you like the mod stuff.
Entire classes with entire abilities and animations and all kinds of shit. There's also campaigns people have made. Obviously, if you play this on a console, you're not going to have access to any of that stuff, which is unfortunate, but I'm sure you guys are used to it by now. But as far as the PC version, well, I mean, there's a lot of games that you can get a lot of longevity out of if you get mods, but
yeah. Do you remember when Gabe Newell came out on stage and said we're bringing Steam to PlayStation 3, and then it was a bunch of half-assed fucking like multiplayer features for games nobody played?
I do. I do recall that. That's true.
I remember that.
Oh yeah, initial release date is September 30th, so the end of this month.
Yep. So we got to get cracking. That's all I'm saying. We got to get through Divinity Original Sin 2. And we will. I think we will. I'm confident. Good. I don't really want to rush it, like in all actuality, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Playing it co-op is a lot of fun. And I think Baldur's Gate. Yeah. I think the enhanced edition of Baldur's Gate 2 has some multiplayer components to it. But yeah.
Oh, Baldur's Gate will have online co-op as well. So yeah, I guess we'll have to. Ooh.
Just them doing their thing with the actual D&D flavor is like very, very appealing to me. Very appealing.
It's on a new version of the Divinity engine.
Yep.
So cool, man. Damn, excellent. That's awesome. I'm excited. This is honestly like, I've played a good portion of games like this, but I've never really had them all click very well. Like I've enjoyed them to a point, but I always drop off. This one though, like I get it now, and it makes me want to go back and play other ones because I'm like, oh, okay, if this kind of enjoyment can be had here, what are the other ones like? If I just maybe didn't give it enough time or whatever.
I'd highly recommend the original Baldur's Gate and got Baldur's Gate 2, the enhanced editions.
See,
if you've never played those are fantastic games.
What were the dungeon crawling versions of those that were on the PS2?
Like Dark Alliance, maybe? Yeah, Dark Alliance was the one I
played that one a lot. I played that game a shit ton.
Lady dual wielding on the cover or whatever.
Yeah, that elf, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good game. I picked that up at random. I was just like, this looks fun, and then I ended up playing that for like months. That was a great game.
So, that's Divinity Original Sin 2. We'll probably be playing some more of that. And, I guess, do you want to maybe cut to a little break and then come back and talk news?
I sure do. There's not a bunch of news this week, guys, but we'll get into a little bit of it. And, hey, as always, I'll probably talk for 8 hours about most of it, even though there's no information.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're about to dive into some tasty, juicy gaming gossip and news. Let me tell you something.
Dirty news.
Coming right at you. The news this week, while it was slow, there's a couple things in here that are pretty decent.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff, I suppose.
When you're done reading about, Epic and their whole thing, you can always count on some good old-fashioned rumors to
that stuff
really
is
bring
wild,
you some
and
excitement.
It continues to be wild. That's probably is one of the biggest stories in games in a long time, I think, really. I mean, outside of like just involving the industry and not like just individual people, like having companies go after each other is pretty wild.
In such a really like on the nose, like sick my fans after you kind of shitty way. Yeah, it's like
well, and it's very blatant. Like, all right, we're suing you. You're suing us. We're suing them. This is getting sued. They're coming in to support me to sue you. Like, it's really nuts.
Yeah,
it's really nuts. Like, I'm curious, but I mean, if it comes to pass, and I mean, realistically, I mean, I think overall, I mean, Epic's in the right mostly. And only just because
the way they went about it, like the way they went about it was so stupid.
But it was calculated. That's the thing is like it's stupid, but they knew exactly what they were doing, and then they're gonna just execute. And that's maybe the more interesting thing too. But yeah, I mean, really, it's like, I mean, it's good for everybody if they win. Unfortunately, I think because it is kind of like you're just giving Epic more money at the end of the day. But I mean, the Unreal Engine is huge, and I mean and it's been huge in games for a long time. I mean, obviously Unity and other stuff is there, but the Unreal Engine has been huge, good, and sound for a really long time, and continues to be so. So
I guess while we're talking about it, just to like why we're talking about that specifically is that Apple moved to like ban the Unreal Engine from their platform entirely. And Microsoft came in support of Epic and was like, yeah, this is bad because, not only is Unreal Engine like one of the most like popular platforms for mobile development, but also like, Unreal Engine's used in a lot of different aspects of like entertainment, especially now. So to ban them, it's like a slap in the face to not only Epic, but, small developers who have nothing to do with this fight.
Yeah, well, and who have followed the rules and have, paid to use an engine from another company and then are having to take a cut of. I mean, it's that classic case of two rich, parents fighting over child support for their kid who's not seeing any of it. So it's just like, or very little of it, I guess. But yeah, it sucks, man, because that is a huge blow. I mean, again, and like you said, just because it's people that they weren't here to back that fight either direction. And I mean, I'm not one to play games on my phone. I really don't care to. I feel like I have so many other devices that do it, and
do it better.
Don't love touch. Yeah, don't care for touch screens. I mean, you can play with controllers and all that, sure, but none of those games have really ever. There's never been like a single phone game that's like I've got to play this one. But,
that xCloud stuff with those like clip-on controllers for the phone though. That's the future, man.
I mean, that seems fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cool.
Yeah.
Most phones' batteries don't last long enough as it is, so I don't think we need anything to just help drain it even faster. Yeah. In case of actual emergencies, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's. I mean, again, if that's the only option you have is to play games on your phone, then obviously I don't. I side with you in this because that is awful. I would like people to get to play games whatever capacity they get to, and to shorten in that is a little crazy. I think though. I mean, I would say I think the mobile game arena needs a big shift anyway outside of this, because I think that most of those games are that they're just very much cut and paste the same game in a lot of ways, and it's more or less just how can they get money out of you. They're not really a game most of the time, or at least in the traditional sense, or at least in one that justifies the amount of money. I mean, some mobile games they want you to pay like a monthly subscription for just one game of like, I don't know, like Match 3 or whatever, and it's like you can
Mario Kart does that now.
Yeah, Mario Kart has an online subscription on there, which is buck wild. And again, if that's something you want to pay for and you want to do, I mean, by all means do it. It's your money, obviously, but I just think it's not a good look for mobile developers. And I think that's the other thing about that landscape is it's hard if you are trying to earnestly make a good game for mobile. I don't know how you stand out or how you do it. I mean, most of the time the cream will rise to the top, but there's so much other shit to wade through. And even on Steam you've seen it, which I think it's definitely better on there because it's much easier to go, this is shit, and sift through that in that platform. But yeah, with mobile stuff, I think also like people are more passionate about computer game stuff, so they feel the need to review something or leave a thing. Whereas phones, it's like not as you're not as inclined to do so. And I think also too the risk of games on there getting more of your information and other stuff is prevalent, which is another concern that you don't have as much on. I mean, it's still obviously it's possible on the computer, but I think there's something about a phone that makes it more just prevalent, and which is a whole nother discussion really altogether. But
yeah, there was this era of mobile gaming where they were working on like porting like console style games to mobile, so you would get things like Oddworld, Stranger's Wrath, you would get Knights of the Old Republic, pretty competent. Baldur's Gate has Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition, the first one. I think Divine Divinity, Planescape. A lot of those like old ARPGs are on mobile now. There was like a good moment where they were pushing that stuff that was pretty appealing, but then like that hasn't really been happening a lot again.
Yeah, I think I have a Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on my iPad, which is like an old PSP game, but a fully fledged PSP game on there as well. I mean, yeah, so there's still stuff that there's still people trying to do that, but
you're right. I think a lot of them just delve into how do we turn this into a lottery machine, or how do we turn this into a slot machine.
I think most of it boils down to the price point. It's like, one, you're generally not going to spend $20 on a game that you can only play on your phone. One, I mean, touch controls are just bad. Like, I mean, they've made waves. I think Call of Duty recently was one of the better ones to actually make it feel not as bad to play. But in what instance are you really wanting to sit down and spend, hours playing a game on your phone, which generally probably won't last several hours with you playing it on it anyway.
That is huge for the Chinese market, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like those mobile like shooters and stuff. Like that's why that Call of Duty game was made the way it was.
Well,
that was made.
Well, same with PUBG Mobile too, but I think a lot of that boils down to just physical space. Like most, homes in Japan and China and stuff are nowhere near as large as ours are, and don't have. I was actually watching something about the Wii U, and they brought up a point. Is like when, because a lot of the advertising emphasized being able to do stuff on your TV while still playing the Switch or by playing the Wii U, and it was like, why would you do this? And it's like, well, yeah, if you have a small home that only has one TV. It makes a ton of sense because it's like, well, one person can do this, the other person can just watch their show or whatever, and it works. And obviously, we've seen with the Switch that works incredibly well. So obviously, they're laying a good foundation there. But I think that is more prevalent in places that don't have the opportunity to have like a lot of space to put stuff. Like, I mean, you look at like a desktop computer is not a small thing. Like, you can make a small one for sure, but the space it takes is pretty big generally. So, I mean, you look at that and you go, yeah, well, obviously it's easier for them. Especially, too, phones are fully capable of playing these things, like, and having good games on them. Like, the processors are there now. The RAM is there. The refresh rate on the screens is even there. Like, it's better than most TVs. So, the ability is totally there. It's just, I mean, I guess for our market, maybe. And I think it actually goes inside or couples with the other side of these mobile games, which is the free ones that just have all this monetization and the slot machine feel to every single one of them. I think it's because also in especially in Japan, like the arcades there, they all kind of feel like these games. Like, it's not like, I mean, there's full games there, but a lot of them feel like a wild slot machine with just a bunch of shit getting thrown at you, like constantly. It's like, you got this, here's 1,000 points, you did this, here's this score, bonus round, all this kind of crap. And yeah, so it's very similar in that same way. And I think their market is still, because we really don't have arcades here much. Like, I mean, there's a few, but they're definitely not near as popular.
They're all barcades.
And now they're all bars, more or less. And most of them you don't, win tickets, obviously, or have any kind of, you really don't even pay to play them anymore. You pay like an entry fee, and it's just whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that definitely makes that stuff easier to get away with over there, or at least to have that style of game. And again, there's nothing wrong with those inherently, but it just, I mean, a lot of them are kind of gross with the monetization stuff anyway. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
I don't think any game on your phone should have a $100 option no matter what the game really is. I can't imagine that any phone game is worth that investment. Or mostly even a lot of AAA games on the computer, they're not really worth that investment of $100.
Yeah, unless you're like unless you're in Hearthstone esports, or like you're an influencer or something, there's probably no reason to spend that much money on a mobile game.
Yeah, I can see it if it's for your audience for sure. But again, I can't imagine there's an audience. I mean, I'm sure, you know what, I say that, but I'm sure there is an audience of Twitch people that just play mobile games.
You should see on Facebook Gaming what the most popular games are that are being streamed on that platform. And I'll tell you,
give me a rundown, because I don't know.
It is, well, I can't, I don't have a list right in front of me, but I will say,
is the only thing I see on Facebook Gaming is just videos of people's live streams of them playing Grand Theft Auto and Warzone, and it's like pre-recorded of their stream to make it look like they're currently live, and they put a video up, and it just seems like it has people come in and watch while the game is already done for. It's really, really weird. Or Fortnite, I guess, or now Fall Guys, I guess, but
yeah, like some of the top games that are on here, PUBG Mobile 84,000 viewers right now on
Mobile
Facebook
Legends,
Gaming.
90,
Let me just throw this up there.
2.
Yep, Call of Duty Mobile only 8.5K. But dude, look at this. PUBG Mobile is dwarfing regular PUBG on Facebook Gaming, like by a
regular
lot.
PUBG's had some issues lately too. They added like
oh
bots to
dude,
the
they
games and people were really not thrilled by that.
No thanks. Arena of Valor, which is another one of those mobile MOBAs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Teamfight Tactics,
I
that's
guess
on both
too,
mobile
though, it's
and
probably really
PC.
easy to stream your phone out to Facebook already than it is to
100%.
record a screen and do something else. Like that kind of makes sense to me too, though.
But yeah,
Man,
them
God
trying to
of
like,
War is like on the top. What?
Them trying to push into that is like trying to push into the streaming space and like seeing that a majority of the people using Facebook for this stuff are viewing mobile games. It's just an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, that is really strange. That's a world I don't understand. I mean, I don't really understand streaming as a whole, though. Like, as much as I would love to dip into it at some point, it doesn't. I don't know.
Well, speaking of mobile games,
sure.
There's been a rumor lately that Nintendo will be releasing a new Switch next year, and I feel like this story happens or has happened every year. Every couple months you hear something like this, but this is actually like corroborated by some pretty interesting people on the inside that are able to confirm that they're actively they're throwing heavy R&D on having this thing ready to go by sometime next year. They're basically going to be
it's about time. I mean, like the regular Switch is great, but it's definitely not as powerful as I think it needs to be.
Yeah, so there was this Economic Daily News article that came out, and there were a couple different ones.
Here we go.
About this will work. But they're always kind of talking about what's next, and there was a recent investor call, and somebody came out and straight up said, "Hey, the Switch is doing great, but when are we expecting new revisions?" And they basically, for lack of a better way of saying it, is that we're always looking into what's next.
Right, and of course. I mean, that's what they're always gonna say.
Yeah, but I think that it is about time. The Switch is reaching 4 years next year. I think that with the fidelity of the games coming out on the new platforms now, I think it's in their best interest to make something maybe a little more sleek, a little bit more dynamic as far as the graphical capabilities. Also, the display, battery life. There's tons of improvements they can make upon the original Switch.
Well, I mean, that's to say if it even is still portable. Because that's the other side of it. Dude. We got the mid level, we got the low end. Now we're gonna get the high tier. That's always been the rumor, but I think it would be a disservice for them to not include the ability. For me personally, because I love being able to take a console with me like this. So I think it would be a bummer if it is only a pro model. That being said, though, if I had just another one to sit up to a TV and then could just take the Switch Lite with me and keep my saves and everything, then I don't care. Then that's fine because I like the Lite and how it feels and everything.
I think it would be a major disservice, though. I think it would be a major disservice to take what is cool about the original Switch and say, this one you're only going to play on the TV because
but
then they have to position.
But that is the way I see it. We're looking at though is the same thing. They took the ability to play it on a TV, which is the other half. So it's they're fully capable.
The experience is still that experience of at least the handheld play is still fully featured in this. Whereas if it was the other way around, you're missing a complete feature set. The thing that is appealing about a new model is that they could take current existing mobile technology and some of the newer developments that NVIDIA has been doing on DLSS and implement those into their console. A premium tier of it would be a lot better in my opinion, but also I think I'm getting lost in my train of thought, but there is potential there for a home only device, but also they would have to position it like competing against those other consoles. If they did it in a handheld format this next time around, then they don't have to position it as, okay, what are you going to plug into your TV? You're going to plug this thing in, or are you going to plug PS4 or Xbox in?
See, that's the thing I wonder about, because I think that they've positioned themselves in a way to where they don't have to explain that. Like, what I mean more is, like, the Switch has been on its own for so long now that I almost feel like people are aware that if you're getting this Switch or whatever, that it is still not a PS4 or an Xbox. Those are sort of in their own lane, and this is still just the Switch, which is still its own unique sort of deal, because they've kind of gone that way for a while now. Like, especially if you look at, like, the Wii was the last one that was, like, sort of on the same page. And then the Wii U they went far out with it, and we're like, no, we're separating. I mean, even with the Wii somewhat, because it was still like, it was like a more powerful GameCube, but the controller was so wild and that stuff that it was like, well, okay, this is vastly different. Maybe the GameCube really is the last one that was sort of on the same page. And then they were like, with the Wii was there, the Wii U went even farther out, and then the Switch went all the way out. And I think that now they're in, at least everyone I think that would be interested or making purchasing decisions or talking about it pretty much know that it is its own thing. But I agree too, though. I mean, both sides are true. I think either one could be possible, but I do lean more on the side of them on their own unique plane, to where they don't necessarily have to justify that or really tell anyone that they're obviously not going to be this next thing. But I don't know.
I think the most appealing thing about the Switch is, like, packing it up, taking it with you, to have a model that omits that aspect of it, regardless of whether you can plug the Switch Lite into a TV or not. The ability to take it with you is the most appealing thing. Because while I do play this bad boy docked most of the time these days, I'll still pick up that Lite, transfer, save, and, you know, if I'm going to a weekend somewhere, I'd much rather take that other one with me.
And that's the next thing, right? I wonder with this, I mean, again, if they're saying it's not going to be released until next year, I don't know. I really wonder. I don't think they would say anything about it this year. It doesn't feel like they would mention anything about this thing officially, especially because of unless they're going to try and go, well, I know these other two consoles are out, but we've got one on the way, so just wait. Especially in this climate too, because neither PS5 or Xbox have a good position right now. Like, neither of them are really in a spot that's like, you have to get this thing, look at it. Like, they're both pretty much just like, whatever. It's a new box. The thing I wonder is if they do say something about it, because I mean, it's almost the perfect time to try and hit you with the it doesn't dock or it doesn't go anywhere thing, due to the fact that everyone is stuck inside. This is almost the time for them to go, and you can't leave your house with it. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm at my house all the time anyway, and mostly will be for the foreseeable future or whatever. And obviously that, I mean, we're dependent on how long that lasts or whatever, but I could see them playing either way.
Yeah.
I hope it's portable, because that's what I want. I mean, that's what that again appeals to me the most. But again, I will say though, from the reports I've seen, is it's pretty much split dead down the middle. Like, how many people play it at home only, and how many people play it on the go and at home. But it's almost 50-50 on both sides. So I don't know. I really don't know.
The big rumor I touched on earlier is that, like, according to this job listing on LinkedIn that I pulled up here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on that. This was a job posting from NVIDIA talking about what they wanted to see in a new hire, which is working on their, it's a senior embedded graphics engineer. But what's interesting is that it is collaborating with software engineers, architecture teams to craft, develop, test, and optimize graphic stacks like Vulkan, OpenGL, and other proprietary graphic APIs, while at the same time working on DLSS 2.0 technology and targeting the Tegra graphics system and software stack. So that essentially means is, one, bringing more Vulkan capability to their mobile processor chips. Tegra is powering Switch. Then you have DLSS 2.0, which is essentially dynamic super sampling or subsampling or something like that, where essentially you're running a 720p signal that is like up-res through artificial intelligence to a 4K signal. And if you haven't seen some of the footage out of Control or Death Stranding for that matter, with that tech turned on, it is incredible what you can do.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. What was it? Metro Exodus uses it as well, and it's pretty good there.
Yeah, so that ability, like where you can have something mobile that only displays at like that 720p on a good day, handheld, up to like possibly a 4K through like subsampling, that would be remarkable. That would be probably the biggest like graphics leap for mobile processing in a very long time.
And I wonder, I mean, I guess it's both sides of the coin here too, because I would say if you're looking for someone, you would want both of these things anyway, based on what you're doing. But I wonder how much of this has to do with their streaming stuff, like using their NVIDIA Now or whatever it is. I can't remember the name, but their NVIDIA streaming platform, because that's already, from what I hear, pretty solid as it is. So if they have one, that's capable of doing all that stuff, all the above. I mean, obviously, because they're going to be developing for both anyway. So they're not developing, but having someone there that works on both of those would be really interesting. Because that's the thing is, I wish realistically that they would just turn, or maybe they're planning on something for like a Shield, like maybe they're planning to put their own thing out. Really, what I wish they would do, which I don't think Nintendo would let happen, is like for them to work with some kind of partnership to go, hey, you can use the Switch as an NVIDIA Shield basically, and just play Steam games through that on the TV, which would be really rad. But yeah, I mean, chances are very slim for that happening. Same with Microsoft getting Game Pass on there, same deal. I mean, I don't think they're going to let it happen, but it would be very cool if they did.
I just think that pushing the graphical capability of the Switch into a next generation is, while not very important, because Nintendo for the past decade has like been okay with lagging behind on that front, I still think it's in their best interest to do something with the fidelity of those games.
I would say more. I just need the frame rate. I need the frame rate back, because some of that shit is pretty abysmal, and it's
getting worse too.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad. And as much as I love playing stuff on the Switch, like there's some really rough spots, and
I'm really hoping that the settings of like legacy games, if you want to call it that, like let's say you pop in, which is, dude, if you have never seen Mutant Year Zero running on the Switch, I implore you to look at that it is the most ugly thing I've ever seen. Can you pull some up real fast? Yeah, I will absolutely pull some up. Mutant Year Zero on Switch is abysmal.
I played a bit of that game on the on the PC, obviously.
Yeah, it is the most muddy, like bad-looking game that I've played on the system, and I'm really hoping that with some improvements to the
I guess did you play this both docked and on the TV?
Yes, and it's both in both places. It is incredibly muddy. It may not look like much in this footage, but you have to see it to believe it. There's nothing. This is the worst example I've seen of it. If you look at the draw distance of everything, the like detail of the textures, the models, the amount of like latency. What I'm getting at is I hope that retroactively with the new Switch system that they'll be able to figure out a way of
that looks pretty
a way of essentially it's pretty bad. A way of essentially like up-resing the old games.
Easy game either, so this is not really something I would want to have to play on this.
No, and the only reason I picked it up is because it was like $15 at GameStop or something like that. Like I picked it up like brand new, pretty much for $15 because they were just not moving it. But that's what I want. I want the old games supported on like the new hardware, and I'm hoping that the games were built in a way that would support that. I don't want a new 3DS situation. You know what I mean? Where like, oh, you can play Xenoblade Chronicles, but you can only play it on this new 3DS. Like,
well, I think that we might run into. I mean that sounds more likely just because of because of the fidelity of games currently, and then if they're getting on this platform and they have a more powerful system, and because they got away with it before, they may be in a position to just go, okay, well, these games are going to only run on this enhanced. I don't know. That's the thing that's really frustrating, is because it's like, especially having played games on the PC for such a long time, like you can fix all that stuff. Like you can make all those adjustments. But I also understand it's confusing for some people and they don't want to do that. But I feel like we should at least have the option. Like they should probably, default it to run as proper as it could, and then or default it to where the peak like performance thing is what's maybe the highest setting, or maybe the what they think is the best running is the default or highest setting, and then you can only go down from it to get more performance out of it. Because I would take, like here, I would take less fidelity. I don't need to see all the flowers and stuff. Like, I mean, as much as that would probably help, but if you could take all that out and give me a bit more draw distance, that would be huge for this game. Or there's some other stuff that's like, I mean, that you saw
it's
with
just
like
the blur, man. It's just so blurry.
Oh, and there's a lot of games. There's what was that game I played on here that was like that? That was like almost I couldn't. Oh, it was Rad, that roguelike there. Dude, the blur in this game is so insane, and I could not even see most things that were happening. Like, and it's not near as bad on here, but the handheld mode, it's even down-resed even further, so the blur is even more insane, and then everything gets really pixelated when you hit things anyway, and then the frame rate starts to drop, and then when you fight a boss, the camera pulls out so far you cannot see anything. Like, it is impossible to play. And I ended up picking up the PC version just to compare them, because I was like, I enjoy this game and I think I would like to play it, but I can't really see it. And that's happened a couple times where I've like played the game on the Switch and been like, damn, this is like almost unplayable. And then I've gotten the other version and been like, wow, this is way better. But I still wish the mobile one was the one I could play. Yeah, that was a really.
I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. I just there's a lot of potential there. I say give the original Switch, at least like up until 2022. If you want to cut them off and you want to like move everybody into the next gen, give them until at least 2022. I would hate to see this game come right out of the gate and be like, oh, Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 3, these games you were looking forward to, sorry, they're only on this new one.
Well, I think that's the thing with those, is I feel like they've already been in development long enough to where you'll be okay. Yeah. The worry I have is for so many people who did just buy a Switch because of Animal Crossing and because of the pandemic and all that stuff, them getting burned for only being on this platform for maybe a year or two, and then them going, all right, well, we got a new one now, this one's not going to play everything anymore, and you're like, man, I just bought this. Or I paid some scalper an exorbitant amount of money to get this, and now it's garbage. Or the better one is cheaper than what they paid for that, which to some degree that's on them for doing that anyway, for needing for feeding a scalper and paying into that anyway. But and I hope they know that already by accepting that potential loss, but myself included, because I almost fucking spent $600 on a goddamn Animal Crossing Switch, but I didn't do it, and thank God I didn't.
I kick myself a lot because I went to a GameStop and they were like, hey man, we got 2 of these left available for pre-order if you want to do it. And I was like,
you should have told me that. God damn.
Bro, I kick myself over it every day.
I would have done I would have done it because I just wanted I wanted a dockable one more so I could record stuff. Because after buying the other one, I was like, man, I played a lot of this. I'd like to record some of this, but it doesn't matter. We're getting a new one anyway, right? That's this whole thing.
We'll see. So I guess while we're talking Nintendo, they also did I guess the rest of the news is going to go pretty quick because that was like the biggest thing I saw this week.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the mini direct, there's not really anything exciting. It's.
you
I
excited
mean,
for
if you're
Kingdom
fans
Hearts
of these
Melody of
series, I
Memory?
guess, dude, don't get me started on Kingdom Hearts musical too. I don't. I mean, Theatrhythm was pretty good, but that was all Final Fantasy music. This is just Kingdom Hearts. I mean, it's
Yeah.
when you walk away, you don't hear me say "Please, oh baby." It's that 45 times. It's 45 different remixes of that song.
I hope
Uh,
so. I hope so,
and
because I love Simple and Clean. It's
it's
my
simple and
favorite
clean.
song.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the name of it. It's simple and clean 45 times over, just remixed, and then you get one song from Frozen that everybody likes, and then that's it.
I guess if you were to
What? I mean, they just.
No, that's it. That's it. That's 100% it.
I mean, what other song? I mean, I'm sure the people that are fans of this are going to be pissed off, and that's fine, because I'm naive and I don't know. But are there really that many memorable songs in that game that you would know the name of other than Simple and Clean, and maybe the ones that were from specific Disney movies?
Yes. I think
Yeah?
I
Okay.
think the at least the original two Kingdom Hearts games had like a really good original score.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Hollow Bastion song's pretty good. Some of the Gummy Ship level songs are pretty good.
Oh, yeah, okay, I
Um,
do kind of remember those being cat. Yeah, okay.
yeah, like the combat music, there are original compositions in it that are pretty good, but this is gonna be that, these are the poppy songs that we originally created with Utada Hikaru and Skrillex. His song from Kingdom Hearts 3 is gonna be in this one. Uh
Oh.
yeah,
I guess they
so
couldn't. I guess they couldn't call Dead Mouse because of Mickey Mouse. Like they couldn't get him in there because there'd be too
no,
much cross IP
too
and
much.
confusion.
Yeah. But yeah, that's probably the biggest game they showed, right next to Puyo Puyo Tetris 2.
Yeah.
This one was very light. It got a lot of thumbs down on YouTube, which I think it's primarily just people angry that they're not getting like a regular direct. There was
Yeah,
one
dude.
rumored for this Friday, like a full-fledged direct, but that doesn't seem like it's happening at this point.
I mean, maybe it will because we got that mini the other day. The last with the Nindies one was like what, last Thursday? Because that's when we recorded and it came out. I think that day.
Yeah,
And then this is what, Wednesday right now.
something like that.
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. I don't. I mean, they got to start saying something about games that are not on other platforms already, or not just. I mean, I guess the Kingdom Hearts thing isn't, but like stuff that's like. You don't buy it and necessarily. I mean, this one more than the other ones you bought to play indie stuff, but you don't really buy a Switch for indies. You buy a Nintendo product because you want Nintendo games.
That's true. That's true. But I think I think Nindies. I'm never. Please kill me for calling them that.
I
Oh my
said the
god,
same thing. I mean, that's the way they're branding it.
it's so bad. But
I mean, I
think
love
indie
them, and I think
titles.
they're more welcome on the Switch than any other Nintendo platform we've had, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
But I get what you
I've got
mean.
No
I get what you mean.
disparagement towards that. I just think as those are great, but I think as a whole, everyone's like, all right, what's next Nintendo? Not like what's the next, big,
Chucklefish game or something.
right. And again, nothing against those because they're all really good. And Stardew Valley on the Switch is awesome. I played a ton of it and stuff like that. I mean, it's a perfect home for them in a lot of cases. And again, especially with the performance stuff we just talked about, even more so. But again, I think you want like it's some of the only games I'm willing to spend $60 on. I guess I'll say that too. It's like some of the only ones that I'm like, okay, I'll get this day one at this price. One, because it's not going to get cheaper forever, and then two, it's like you usually get a solid thing out of it, and. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, they got. I mean, again, like I said, holiday. We said before, holidays coming up. They need something, or maybe they're just not even trying to compete with the new consoles at all. But
That's
honestly,
part of
I
what
think
that.
it's okay. So I'll say this last thing, and I don't think it's their position or the thing they've tried to do at all. But again, by virtue of these consoles not really having much to show, they're almost in a position to make other people not buy those yet either, because it's like, well, I've already got a Switch. If you could just show me some knockout titles, then what's the point of me buying another console right now anyway? And
I think there's
people are
still
gonna
time,
buy them
yeah.
anyway, but they are in a better position to have people spend more money on their platform currently than they are to buy new ones, I think.
Listen, because like they've done that big like turnaround, like quick turnaround recently. And last week I was like, September, we're going to have that. September, we're going to have like this is what's happening this holiday. I mean, I still think that's happening.
I agree.
Because
I like to think that, yeah.
Because when they revealed Breath of the Wild, that was like during the Switch presentation, in January or something? And they were like, by the way, this thing's out in March. And then it was like a big fucking deal. Like, oh my God, this thing's coming out on launch day.
That's
like,
true.
And then now with like Paper Mario, Origami King, with Pikmin 3, they're doing the short release window stuff. And I think that they recently have had a habit of maybe putting their foot in their mouth a little bit on announcing games, especially with Metroid Prime 4. I think that they're like going back to the drawing board and being like, okay, maybe we're announcing these things a little too far from the release window, so it gets like people a little agitated. So I imagine we'll see something. We'll see something about it. But no, I hear what you mean. You're going to want to see that knockout thing. You're going to want to have a reason to not purchase one of those other things. Like if they did somehow, like next month, announce Breath of the Wild 2, it's happening this holiday, that would, I think, because of the piss poor in some aspects launch lineup of these other consoles. If you already have a Switch, why would you even bother? Because who cares about the like ray tracing and the graphics fidelity at that point if you're getting like a sequel to one of the greatest like Zelda games of all time? Yeah, like
and I mean even it's like who cares if you're getting ray tracing and all that if you don't have any games to play on it. Like it's like it's sort of the same way we most of the people that bought RTX cards when they came out bought, and we still feel that way because they're still not really ray tracing. Like we have a few things that do it, but a ton don't. And
I think of Control.
Yeah.
And
you've got Control, Battlefield 5. You've got Metro Exodus.
Control.
And Control. And then you also have the Minecraft beta.
And then you have the Wolfenstein Youngblood, which nobody was happy about or
Did
looked
that
forward
have
to.
ray tracing?
That either it did or it will. I know Doom Eternal. I know Doom Eternal is getting ray tracing support later.
Sure, I mean, fine, that's fine. Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, you're right.
The DLSS is more interesting. I mean, the stuff ray tracing looks really nice, but yeah, I think the DLSS stuff is more interesting and more universally appealing to game makers. Anyway, I think that gives you a more interesting thing overall.
Give me less hardware overhead to be able to give like a 4K, like a simulation of 4K, but still close enough to where like the naked eye can be like, oh fuck, this looks amazing.
It's just if you can find that middle ground of like actual good performance and that enough fidelity to make it look, at least enough to make it give it the art style that the developer is trying to give it. Then I think that's the more important thing to work towards than just straight up ray tracing or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think from the consumers too, like it's like a lot of them I'm sure are already on the fence about buying this console anyway, the new ones as it is. So yeah, I think if you look at a good Switch game, you go, well, I don't need to spend $600 right now. I'm probably not going to really play anything anyway. And this game's coming out. Not to assume that everyone has a Switch, but it feels like most homes have a Switch. Like it sort of feels like the new cordless phone or whatever, it was for a while, or DVD player or whatever. It seems like a lot of people have them. So I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting either way. This is a really wild year for games, and console launches are always pretty insane. And this one seems like to be the wildest one yet, really. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but to really quickly touch on this, DC Fandom was this weekend, and they showed off, which is one of my least favorite names of a fan gaming or fan event, Fandom.
What does that sure the marketing imply? Guy thought he knocked it out of the park, though.
He was like, "Yeah, they're giving me a raise after this one."
Dome, hell yeah! Like, where do you go? And you're like, not a dome or outside of your house at all. You go, okay, well.
So I'm gonna turn the sound on just a little bit on this video here. Turn it down a little bit. So this is basically the next Batman game that's coming out.
Not Rocksteady,
it looks to be. Right? No, this is BB Montreal. They're the one that made Batman Origins, I believe, Arkham Origins, which was like the middling one that people were like, yeah, this is like those other games, but it's like not quite there.
This doesn't look like, much better to me.
Well, this kind of looks weird, like this beginning stuff, and like I think it's commendable because they're actually showing you like a build. This isn't like some smoke and mirrors, like rendered video. No, you know what I mean?
Enough. Yeah, no, fair enough.
But you can tell right away. Like when I saw the footage for the first time, and she looks up and you see the grapple points, I was like, "Oh fuck, this is Arkham Asylum just with co-op." Yeah. And that's what this is. So you have 4 heroes. You have Red Hood, Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing. And
other Robin.
Yeah. So. That's what it is. There's not a whole lot to say, but it's cool that to see like these studios get back in the groove on it because we haven't seen one of those Arkham style games in a couple years. But this kind of harkens me back to when we were talking about Rogue Legacy 2 and Torchlight. It's like, do we need another one of these? Is it going to do enough to innovate on it?
They have levels on them too. So is this the next Marvel Avengers or the better version of that game?
I think it is.
I think the combat here is much more improved than that for sure. Because those games always had really solid combat, regardless of the quality of the rest of the game.
Yeah, them having levels and stuff reminds me of like the Lord of the Rings, like Shadow of War kind of thing, where the world enemies kind of had levels. But this is co-op. It's not like their next live service game. This is you get it, play it, beat it. You're done with it. I'm sure they're going to have DLCs. They're probably going to have some skins. But for the most part, I think skins. That this...
Yeah, the single-player ones had a ton of them.
Yeah, I think this will be probably your more straightforward like co-op action game, in my opinion, from what I've seen of this footage that I watched.
Yeah.
I'll skip a little ahead because they do kind of get into some of the like combat and like the asynchronous stuff. So if we back up, you can see Robin kind of goes on a different path here. She takes like the lower ground and he grapples up in the high ground. So you're going to be able to kind of...
I can see this being fun. Yeah.
If they nail it, I mean, if they do... Because the Arkham games are fucking awesome. And I recently started playing Arkham Asylum again, and it still feels as good today as it did when it came out. I don't think that those games have really aged.
And everything in that game.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Doing this with a buddy seems pretty cool. Taking on objectives and kind of doing different things in the same map. This is what I was talking about with Marvel Avengers, in a way. Right. Is like, Robin's probably going to go do some stuff that is going to maybe impact the way she does things in like her area down here. Maybe you have to have a co-op partner go a different route to unlock a route for you to go. While you fight a bunch of things, and they're sneaking around, like picking off the big units. I think there's potential.
I don't think that Marvel does have stuff like this. I mean, I could be totally off base. It may or may not, but it doesn't feel like it does. If it does, it doesn't feel like it's anywhere near as dynamic as this probably comes off as. So I don't know.
And you can see over there on the left, like some experience stuff pops up. I think there might be some maybe crafting materials. Like you see, she just picked up some like what looks like alloys and metals or something like that. So maybe it's like Arkham Asylum with some of those like more recent like crafting and leveling like tropes in games lately.
I wonder. Yeah, looking at that's what I wonder about this too, because I look at this. This obviously looks more appealing than the Avengers game. Like already looks more enjoyable than that game, even though those elements are still present. And then that makes me really wonder what the Suicide Squad game is, because it feels like it's probably going to be this too, or a mixture of both of those. I mean, obviously we haven't seen any actual gameplay footage of the other one, so I have no idea whatsoever.
That's what I like about this is that, that's what I like about this. It's like, even though it's like the spin-off studio of like what Rocksteady was doing at the time, we're at least seeing gameplay of this, and it's like an early build, and there's some like hitches in the frame rate here or there, but I can tell that this is an actual game.
Yeah, I mean, this already is running better than Avengers did, so there's that.
Yeah. But it's cool, man. I'm excited to go back to these games, to be honest. I think it's about time.
It's about time for another one, yeah. I could see another one coming through. And when it first started, I was like, oh, this again. And then when I looked a little more, I was like, yeah, you know what? I could probably go through this. See, those damage numbers, though, I wonder, man. It seems... I mean, again, I don't dislike those style of games, but we are getting a lot of them, or more of them, I guess. I wonder. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder.
I mean, there's no harm in seeing numbers go up. That's a big appeal to those types of games.
It's just the worry of every game kind of blending into the same game at a point. You know what I mean? It's like you sort of change the character, but everything kind of starts to play like the same game a little bit. I don't know. I'm into that though. I mean, I'll play that game. What?
Yeah, so this is, I guess while we're talking this is the second game they showed, and this is the one that has been on everybody's minds since...
we don't have to go through that. I mean, because this is just teaser stuff.
It's just while we're talking about it, I'll just have this footage up. I mean, Rocksteady's making a Suicide Squad game. It's a Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The teaser footage or teaser picture they put out that we talked about a couple weeks back, it looked like it was like a crosshair on Superman, and people were like, oh, it's Bizarro Superman. Well, at the end of the trailer, yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't find the Suicide Squad very appealing, like, in general. I guess like the comic books are pretty good, but the movie did like no favors in trying to get me on board with it. I also really didn't care for like that Harley Quinn movie or to see it really because of that.
Oh, I didn't see. I don't. Again, I have my affinity for superheroes is very small.
Yeah, I don't know. This seems
any of it.
This seems to kind of have like some of the more James Gunn style humor that I guess they're going for with that new Suicide Squad 2 movie he's making, or the Suicide Squad.
I color palette wise and like world design, this already appeals to me a lot more. Again, obviously this isn't the game, so we don't know what that looks like. It seems more interesting to me already out of the gate, but yeah, again, it kind of really reminds me of and I think this is why I find it appealing, but it reminds me of Sunset Overdrive. Like this game has a very similar feel to that to me. Like this trailer and kind of the action and whatnot that we do see.
I played quite a bit of that when it came out on PC Game Pass. I liked Sunset Overdrive quite a bit.
I love that game. I actually just finished it about a month ago finally because I had set it on the back burner, but I really like that game. I want to see a sequel to that game is really what I want.
I think this has more potential to turn into that. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I'll cut away from it now. This is essentially just the trailer. I have it turned down in OBS, so it's a lot more quiet in the actual video.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they showed a trailer. I'll just show the end of it, I guess, while we're talking about it. Yep, here's Superman, but it's not the Superman you think it is. That's a different kind of Superman. Yeah, that's high school bully Superman. Yeah, he's gonna call you names. But yeah, I think this has more potential to turn into a live service game than the other one does, because the Suicide Squad, you could throw like literally any DC villain into it. For flavor.
You saw
or
the
whatever.
trailer for that James Gunn movie, right? Because it has like 90 characters in it. The first trailer I saw was like 5 minutes, and it was just showing characters and who played them.
You know, I will say real quick about the James Gunn stuff, because they got him at the time when there was that controversy surrounding his like character, if you want to call it that, and like Disney shot from the hip and like fired him and stuff, which he's back now, but DC was like, oh no, we're scraping that talent up. I think.
Oh yeah, dude, those Galaxy movies were fantastic. That was the only really 100%. Superhero movies I've seen, and those were great. Like as movies, those were really good.
So if they nail that, like humor and style, sure. But like I said, it does have that potential. Like there's a shit ton of DC villains, and we literally know nothing about this game. So that's all speculation. But
I think maybe that's the bummer I see looking at the trailers. Just they're pulling already. I mean, again, it's all speculation because there's not anything to go on really. But from what I've seen so far, and like obviously you're gonna have Harley Quinn because that's the one everybody fucking gets super wet over. But I think because there's such a wide gamut of characters to pull from, like it's kind of lame that they. I mean, obviously, I guess these are the main ones. I don't know anything about Suicide Squad, so I could be just talking completely out of my ass. But it's like, if there are all those villains, it's like, man, why are you only picking like the guy that just has a jetpack and shoots a gun, and then the one guy that has just a boomerang, and then the girl that uses a baseball bat is insane. Like, I feel like you have a lot more cooler characters to pull on. But I don't know the stories of any of them, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just based on a James Gunn movie, I'm gonna go see that new Suicide Squad movie, or I'll watch it from home. You know, depending on if the world's still crumbling by the time that comes out. But I think
the last thing we'll get into.
Yeah. We'll talk about Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah. Which it is midnight. I actually wonder if the demo is up on the eShop. I'll check that now as we discuss.
So Kelly brought this to my attention. Apparently, not only is Crystal Chronicles a $30 game, which everybody was like, "Oh, that's a good price for a remaster." You know, they're not charging you the full $60.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with the $30 price point. The thing I noticed though, and it didn't come up on the eShop on the Switch from the game itself. You had to search for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and the only thing that comes up before anything else is just DLC and pages of DLC. And if you'll see that one there, so each of these outfits is like $4 a piece for one specific character. And then the memory crystal thing is all the outfits, which is almost, with tax is basically the price of the base game already. And then if you want all the weapons, or like weapon skins, I guess that's another $10. So you can effectively play more for the game's skins than you can for the game itself, which that's not necessarily untrue of a lot of games, but it is very odd for a game that is quote unquote finished and remastered. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what's happening here? Yeah, I wasn't seeing it on the old eShop here yet.
I just went ahead and threw it to download from my browser.
Yeah,
which is cool. If you didn't know you could do that.
But yeah,
that's kind of egregious.
It leaves me concerned. The early reviews also are not super positive, which I kind of felt might be the case just because the game itself is very different from Final Fantasy games in general. And even when it came out initially, it wasn't received all that well. But there was diehard fans of the game. But I remember, again, initially, it was like a time when the GameCube was like really starved for JRPGs and anything. I think Square Enix had been on the PlayStation at that time for quite a while. And then this sort of showed up, and everyone was like, oh, yeah, Final Fantasy game. And then they're like, oh, fuck. And it also had a super convoluted multiplayer system, which this one also seems to sound like it does from what I've read. It's like, initially, to play this multiplayer, you had to have a GameCube, then you had to have 4 Game Boys Advances, and then 4 link cables, which were about $20 a piece, and then about, I guess, 80-ish for the Game Boy itself. So if you wanted to play this with 4 players, somewhere in there somebody had to spend, well, close to $1,000, I guess, because you're looking at $80 for 4 of those. And then I don't remember how much the GameCube launched at, maybe $299 or $199. I can't remember. Yeah. Either way, you're looking at a good chunk of money to play this game with 4 people. I will say there is and this is the thing that kind of had me concerned, is I was like, oh, a free version of this game with the first couple dungeons and then a way to play through the rest of the game with somebody that has the game. I thought that was really neat. And then the fact that you could play it on mobile, I was like, oh, that's also cool. But now that I see this, I wonder if they're trying to, I doubt they're trying to do this, but I wonder if they're trying to position this in a way of not necessarily a games as a service thing, but like as a continually updated game in some fashion. Sort of like maybe what they did with like Crash Team Racing, although that was arguably a better remaster from what I've seen of this, I won't be able to play it until sometime tonight or tomorrow. But I don't know. Yeah, it just seems.
Yeah, I hate being the guy.
Very slow, but I like the 3DS ones or DS ones, I guess. Ring of Fates, and then or whatever they were called.
I hate being the guy that jumps straight to the end of the review, but a 3, like, ugh. I'll read the rest of this.
I would say you'd probably put this at a 4. This guy, from what I was reading, he sounds a bit biased, like a little angry at some aspects that aren't necessarily the game. But I will say also said didn't finish the review, so take that a little bit with a grain of salt as well. I feel like 3 is pretty harsh.
I mean, with the Switch's connectivity issues and like the always on or the only online co-op, I can see why that would be kind of shitty. Like, this seems like a good like candidate for having good local co-op, but the fact that it's omitted,
I truly don't know why you can't.
Well, because the original game was. That's what doesn't make any sense.
Well, and it wasn't like you didn't nothing was saved on your Game Boy. Like, it was all saved on the system memory card for whoever had the game. So I just don't know what was the limiting feature. But I guess I never played it initially, this one anyway, so I don't know what the Game Boy screen did that would make it. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the hang up is there.
I'll tell you what. There is there's Dolphin emulator. There's ways to play these games.
We're talking legal means. There's a free trial of this game. It's called Final Fantasy Chronicles Lite, and you can definitely for sure play that.
What I'm getting at is, like, this could be easily comparable. Like, what does this game do today that the original game maybe didn't do or does better? And I'm saying maybe somebody out there will be able to kind of go through the mumbo jumbo of getting that working on a modern system, and maybe you can see like how that worked better versus like trying to do this always online thing.
Plenty of people that still own the original hardware and game to make this possible, and I bet there is someone on YouTube that will do this within the first 24 hours. And I bet we will see that. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like a bummer. I was interested to actually play this game for the first time, really, because like I said, I like the other handheld ones. And I was interested to give this a go, and I'm still going to, but I may just be sticking to the light version.
Yeah, we'll see. If you're interested, we could try to spin up some multiplayer on that and maybe see what that's about.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious. And then I guess the very, very last thing I'll just mention very briefly, but Grounded had a big update today, or their big 26th update for the date wise, because this will go up on Friday, but we're recording it on a Wednesday. But yeah, they had their first content patch, not just bug fix patch, content patch. But this one did fix a lot of bugs. But this one, people were upset, like super upset, at least on the Facebook and Reddit groups, because they don't seem to still understand how early access works. Mm-hmm. I think by virtue of a lot of stuff leaking about the internal files on YouTube and other places that showed like things that were in the works, people just assumed that was what was going to be in the game on this update, which was mostly like pond and koi fish and all this other stuff. But I guess they just don't realize, like, it's a team of 13 people, and they're basically creating an entire new ecosystem in a game that's based around ecosystems that already have stuff going on. So basically, that would be them implementing a completely new ecosystem within the first 30 days of their game launch for a group of 13 people. And with the amount of creatures that are already in that they've found, that's like another 25 or 30 creatures. Maybe not that many. I think it's closer to like 15. But either way, that's a lot of work. And it didn't seem like it was going to happen, and it didn't. And they're just upset. They did bring in a bird, which goes around the yard now, which is pretty wild. And I think maybe the developers did that to get people to shut the fuck up about the scale of the game, so they can actually understand what the scale of the game is as far as like literal scale. Because people have had some really outlandish ideas, and they're welcome for sure. But it's like because they're just like, we need cats and stuff in here, and it's like, man, sure, but do you realize how small again that you are? And now that you see a bird, it's like, hey, cats kill this, and this is 12 to 15 times your size. So let's maybe ease off the gas a little bit on what we're going to be getting, because you just don't know how small you actually are.
Yeah, you could fight like an earthworm as like a mini boss in that game. That's how small you are.
Yeah. And so yeah, they did that. They changed a lot of the environment in certain areas. Like there's a pond area with the Battletoads figure. They changed a lot of it. They did add a creature that does live in the water now, which is like some kind of fly or I can't remember. I don't know the name of it. When I was playing it, a title or a name card plate didn't come up, so I don't know what exactly bug it is. But it lives in the water. They redesigned it. They made the spiders way more difficult, which is not necessarily what anybody asked for, but it does make the fights more dynamic, which is cool, and that's what they said they were trying to work on. Then they added a few other things, but I covered that all in the video there, so I mean, I have that up if you want to see all that stuff. But yeah, more of a message to the fans to reiterate, like, just don't listen to leaks and shit. I think the game is better suited for surprises anyway, because the game already is full of mystery. So I think,
and I mean, this thing is only like a month old.
It is literally the first content patch in a month. Yeah, it's the first, and we've had 2 other bug fix patches, and this one also did a lot for the performance of the game overall too. It wasn't bad already, but it definitely improved. Yeah, a lot of stuff got fixed. Weeds grow back now. They're getting it within the 72 hours of in-game time. Stuff left on the ground will start to disappear, like that was causing performance issues and stuff too that you're never going to pick up anyway. Ants got fixed because they were a big issue. But yeah, I mean, they did a lot of work. It's not like they didn't do anything, but people were really, especially, I don't know if it was so much on Reddit, but the Facebook group specifically was like really bad about like just not knowing what one guy's was like what did he say? It was like he's like, yeah, content patch, big fucking lie. And it's like, dude, and luckily everyone was like, dude, nobody said it was happening. Like the developers didn't say that they were adding shit to this game that you have speculated on, or that people have just broken into the game effectively and found, and then are upset that didn't show up. And the other annoying thing is, it will. It's just not there yet.
Just give it time. Just give it time.
So whatever.
These days, people want that like instant, and it's like, well, one, not only are we all, in dire times right now, working from home, that shit's probably really difficult to develop a game in. But 2, time, man. This thing was announced and in early access within like a month. Like, let's lower some expectations.
Well, to give it credit, it was announced a year ago, but it has.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
for a year for sure.
I'm talking like when they were like, hey, when they showed Grounded during that Xbox like summer event thing, and then like, oh, hey, by the way, this thing's in early access in like a month from this announcement. Sure, I don't think anybody saw that coming. So yeah, I guess be happy that you're playing it and that you're able to see their hard work pay off, but just keep in mind that these are real human beings working on the game. That gets lost.
They're real people. They're doing, again, compared to most teams and developers and stuff, they're putting updates out very quickly. They're very responsive. They've been listening to feedback and fixing that stuff that has been an issue. So that's I think the most frustrating thing is just it's like the team is doing really well, and it's super irritating to hear them getting bashed when they're doing better than like 90% of early access games. And they're doing their literal best, and to have them get beaten on is frustrating, because it's a good team, and the stuff that they're putting out is solid stuff. So it's just disheartening, because it's a good game, and they seem like good folks. I feel like you have to be to make a game like this, because it's just super weird and yeah, whatever. But yeah. But that's it. That's the last news I got. There's nothing else out there. That's all that there is ever. There's no other news in the entire world. Just that. That's just video games. Also, shout out if you live in Louisiana. I hope you make it through this hurricane. It seems like it's buck wild down there.
Yeah.
We're going to get buck wild, so, just stay safe. And if you have a GameCube, it has a handle, so you can carry it out with you and play the original Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Real quick, we'll just say some games that came out. Soul Calibur 2 came out 17 years ago.
That was the one that had 27. Link in it,
yeah, that one had
maybe
Link, Spawn, Hayachi from Tekken. They were all in there, man.
Oh yeah, Spawn was the Xbox one because they didn't have really any platform or they didn't have any characters yet, really, except for Master Chief.
Yeah. Super Mario Kart in Japan in 92.
30 years
Earthbound
ago
in Japan
in
94. Oh, so I saw something that made me feel like shit.
Yeah, we both.
So Super Mario Brothers is... So from the time that Super Mario Brothers to Sunshine came out is now the time that Sunshine came out to now, so... It makes me feel so fucking old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So bad. That's a
well, yeah. Well, and then we saw what it was, Castle Crashers, because that was a game I played a lot of at launch.
12 years ago.
12 years ago now, which is insane.
Yeah. Realm Reborn came out 7 years ago. That
was
game
that the
is still
initial
kicking.
release, or that was the re-release, right?
I believe
Realm Reborn.
Yeah, Realm Reborn was the re-release.
The thing they changed it with that.
Yeah,
dude, Control came out a year ago.
Yeah, happy birthday, Control.
That's really crazy. Oh, and Wreckfest hit the PS4. That's a great video game on the PC and everywhere else.
Yeah, I guess.
Killer
for
Was
me,
Dead was cool too.
Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. That's another good one. 13 years ago.
Yeah, I've never played. The only Metroid game I play is Fusion. I've never played any of the other ones.
Oh, that's a good one. Fusion's fucking awesome.
It was great. That was a great game. It makes me want to play Fusion, the other ones because of how good it was.
If you like Fusion, play Zero Mission. It's a remake of the first game. It's really good.
Okay. I can do that whenever I get finished with Divinity, which will be never.
Yeah, make sure you play it legally with a real Game Boy and a real cartridge.
I've got one somewhere around here.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
podcast, boys.
I think that's it. Yeah, there's not much else to cover. Spiritfarer is also still really good, and we'll probably, hopefully, by the next week, have something to actually say.
Yes, my girlfriend actually beat it tonight, and
she finished it?
She was like half talking to me through smiles and half talking to me through tears about it. So,
oh shit,
we'll see. She loved it though. She thought it was amazing.
A really emotional game in a while, so.
She did mention that the game is a little buggy at times, but I guess, we'll see when we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to play it. Well.
Yeah. Follow me.
You can follow Christian at The Deadly Robot on Twitch. You can follow me here on YouTube because I still don't really do Twitch, but you can if you want, I guess, at Birthday Party. Yeah, anything else, Christian? I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I've interrupted a lot of this episode. I feel very bad about it. I'm realizing.
Oh no, it's fine. It is fine. A part of what doing this through Discord is that there's always that delay. So I'll just blame the delay on the fact that you've been fucking rude to me this whole fucking episode, dude. I swear to God, I've been thinking about that the whole time. I was like, Kelly, God damn it. No, I'm just kidding. You've been fine, man.
Well. We'll see what happens to all that Divinity gold, eh?
I'm going to drive your fucking truck, dude. I'm going to drive your truck and fuck your wife.
Drive your truck. That's what, you know what? I'll drive it till my pain's a cloud of dust. And yeah, sometimes I'll drive your truck. How about that? How about sometimes I like to fuck? I think... Guys, if you've never watched the video for this country song, I Drive Your Truck, I really highly recommend it. I think it may be the best country song ever made. And that's all I'll say about it. You should really watch it. It's very good. And
All
I'll
right, boys.
guys. I would play it for you if YouTube wouldn't sue me or do whatever they do when you play stuff you're not supposed to. Goodbye.
Goodbye.